As I approached, I felt a surge of hostility. A divine curse hit me, reducing my stats by 50%, but Stephanie instantly cleansed it. The god of kobolds was too weak for Stephanie to be bothered by its curses. I spotted the target, a tall kobold holding a staff. I cast a scout spell. Target: High Priest of the God of Kobolds. Grade: Legendary, Tier 5. Level: 50. HP: 150 billion. Attack: 16k. Defense: 2200. Skills included Kobold Rage, Bloodthirst, and Physical Resistance. It was an epic boss. I sighed. Without my Shadow Phantom Assassin, I'd have to use my Frost Dragons. Suddenly, a player appeared in front of the Universe Kingdom's line, clad in ornate armor. His ID was Park. Park looked at me smugly. Night Demon, do you see the power of the great god of kobolds? Surrender your dragon recruitment permissions. Admit the Dragon Kingdom stole our history, and become our vassal, and I might spare you. I was stunned by the man's delusion. Even if the god of kobolds descended from the abyss, I wouldn't fear it. With my massive stat amplifications, I was invincible against any god within the Shadow Realm. It was truly fitting for the Universe Kingdom to choose such a pathetic deity as their patron. I snapped my fingers, ordering the Frost Dragons to attack. The system announced the kill, granting 200 billion shadow points due to the 10,000 times amplification. I also gained 500 million Church of Light contribution points. The system noted that by killing the priest, my reputation with the god of kobolds was permanently set to hostile. I ignored the notification. Offending a god early in the game was usually a death sentence for ordinary players. They would typically be targeted until they couldn't play the game at all. I remained unbothered. The god of kobolds was trash, inferior even to Stephanie and Layla. If he really came, it would be a welcome opportunity. I looked down from above, testing if my current damage could kill an immortal-grade true god. I had kept my distance to avoid the dragon's AoE, my smug expression freezing as I watched the scene below. I was stunned. How could an epic boss, backed by a deity, be killed instantly? What kind of monster was this Night Demon? Realizing his end, he roared frantically. Don't be arrogant, Night Demon. I may have lost today, but this is the end for you too. You think this is all we have? You've lost the hearts of the people. Many want to see you fall. I frowned. They had backup plans, but against absolute power, schemes were meaningless. With a wave of my staff, I wiped out the target's HP. Simultaneously, system alerts flooded my ears. Warning: enemy troops have invaded your territory. In the Lost Continent, Aoshi Wushuang stood proudly alongside Tian Dise, the first player to join the evil faction. Behind them stood Aoshi Guild elites and dark-robed figures. Aoshi Wushuang felt uneasy. The towering blue defensive towers and walls were clearly high-tier, yet their attributes remained unknown. He asked, Tian Dise, are you sure about this? Tian Dise smiled. Don't worry, President Aoshi. As long as the money is there, it's a sure thing. Aoshi Wushuang demanded, the money is ready. Why aren't we attacking? Tian Dise replied coldly, waiting for someone. Aoshi Wushuang seethed at being looked down upon by a solo player, but held his temper. He needed this victory to settle scores later. Minutes later, space distorted. A dark portal opened, and a man in black robes emerged, clutching a dark staff. Tian Dise knelt immediately. Greetings, High Priest Joyce. Joyce nodded. So, you are the new Dark Lord. Not bad. He turned toward the territory, his expression suddenly stiffening. Seconds later, he exploded in rage. You call this a small human territory? Are you insane? The air went silent. Everyone was bewildered by the usually composed priest's outburst. Tian Dise was stunned by the verbal assault. Joyce continued cursing. Do you know what these are? Epic-grade Church of Light walls. Legendary mechanical armor. Your trash troops couldn't scratch them in days. And those towers, they're legendary grade. Even I would be killed instantly if I got close. Joyce didn't need a scout spell to identify them. Having lived for centuries, he recognized the architecture instantly. He realized attacking this place was suicide, worse than assaulting the City of Light itself. Aoshi Wushuang and Tian Dise were left in shock. Epic walls. Legendary towers. They had assumed the towers were low tier due to their sheer quantity. Could there really be 1,000 legendary towers? Suddenly, shadows fell from the clouds. Frost dragons dove down, unleashing their breath. The ground turned blue as millions of troops were instantly wiped out. I watched, unimpressed. Despite their numbers, they were nothing against my crown tier units. I spotted the dark portal and sneered. Trying to escape? I ordered the dragons to focus fire. The portal was engulfed in frost. The system chimed. You killed a target, gaining 200 million EXP via 10,000 times amplification. You gained 500 million Church of Light contribution points. You killed a priest of the Dark Goddess. Your favor is permanently minus 200, and she is now permanently hostile. I realized Tian De Ise had defected to the Dark Goddess. A dangerous gamble. Aoshi Wushuang and Tian De Ise were baffled. How did the dragons return so quickly from the distant battlefield? It was impossible. Desperate, Tian De Ise ordered an attack on the frost dragons. Dark orbs flew out. They dealt 0 damage. Tian De Ise's eyes widened. These were Tier 7 troops. Were they legendary units? I would have laughed at the thought. These were genuine crown tier units, far beyond legendary. I noticed Aoshi Wushuang fleeing on horseback. I reached for my finger, touching a cursed black ring. This immortal grade ring, previously unusable due to level requirements, was now ready. I smirked. Why wait? I decided to gift this buff to Aoshi Wushuang. I activated the skill. A dark light of calamity surged from the ring, striking Aoshi Wushuang. Skill successful. Target's luck minus 99,999. Target's territory population cap minus 99%. Troop morale minus 99%. These effects are permanent until the player is killed. Aoshi Wushuang was left in a daze. He blinked, staring at his status bar in disbelief. Aoshi Wushuang stared in disbelief as system notifications flooded his ears. His troops were deserting, heroes were abandoning his territory, and his warehouses had exploded. His mind went blank. His entire defense had collapsed in seconds. Ding! Your warhorse has died suddenly while running. Aoshi Wushuang plummeted as his mount dropped dead beneath him. He hit the ground, losing 368 HP. Furious, he reached for a health potion, only for the system to announce, ding. An accident occurred. You lost 99,999 HP. Ding. You have died and will respawn at the Lord's Hall. Experience reset to 0, level reduced by 1. Back at his territory, Aoshi Wushuang saw his buildings in flames and his troops mutinying. Suddenly, a cold chill gripped him. Ding. An epic boss has descended upon your territory. Defend immediately. High above, I watched bewildered. I scratched my face. I hadn't even touched Aoshi Wushuang. It seemed the man's negative 100,000 luck stat had finally caught up with him. With the Aoshi guild routed, I turned my attention to Tian De Ise, whose dark church forces were in shambles. Tian De Ise glared at me with pure hatred. He had exhausted his credit and contribution points within the church to launch this attack. Now, with his troops decimated and a high-ranking priest dead, he was millions of points in debt, accruing interest like a loan shark victim. Gritting his teeth, Tian De Ise realized he was finished. I smirked, not convinced. Don't get cocky, night demon. Tian De Ise spat. You aren't the only one with good luck. I laughed, mocking the Dark Goddess and vowing to invade the Dark Garden to settle scores for Stephanie. I struck Tian De Ise with a single basic attack, killing him instantly. As the enemy fled, I ordered my frost dragons to pursue. I landed near a crater where the dark priest Joyce lay frozen. I looted the corpse, triggering a 10,000-fold amplification on the spoils. I found a key. Level 1 key. Opens the gate to Dark Church number 165. Dark Church number 165 was a major site, but I had no interest in wasting time attacking it. I also found a pile of black tokens. Token. Level 1 Dark Church token. Can be exchanged at the Church of Light for 10,000 contribution points. With the 10,000-fold amplification, I now held 10,000 tokens, a total of 100 million contribution points, enough to purchase a high-ranking nobility title. I decided to give them to Yi Mingzhu to handle the promotion, as it would legitimize her command. Dismissing the dragons, I entered a portal back to the Shadow Realm. In my 10-minute absence, the battle had turned decisively in favor of the Dragon Kingdom. INA's elven sharpshooters had torn a massive hole in the enemy lines. Their efficiency rivaled the dragons, and with the forced march buff, the coalition forces had no hope of escape. Meanwhile, Vivian's Sky Knights and Shadow Phantom Assassins, supported by Yi Mingzhu's millions, were crushing the enemy from the rear. Zi Qiangwei rushed to me, shouting, "We won!" She hugged my arm in excitement. I was indifferent. It was a total steamroll, not a tactical masterpiece. Why are you so surprised? We just crushed them. Zi Qiangwei rolled her eyes. This was a rare, massive victory for the Dragon Kingdom, and the Rose Guild had played a significant role. As the commander, her reputation would skyrocket, likely leading to a surge in guild recruitment. Realizing she was still clinging to me, she blushed and pulled away. I gestured to the battlefield. Stop acting shy and get back to commanding. Let's finish this by dusk. Zi Qiangwei stomped off. I mounted Sylvia to hunt my final target, Zhongrenhauer, the leader of the Sakura Kingdom. Zhongrenhauer was known for his treachery and schemes. In the future, he would betray the Dragon Kingdom by surrendering to demons. I spotted him in the crowd. Zhongrenhauer looked terrified. Impossible. How could your territory survive? He ranted about Aoshi Wushuang and the epic boss, unable to comprehend his defeat. I ignored him, treating the man's shouting like the buzzing of a fly. Offended by the silence, Zhongrenhauer turned red with rage. I waved my hand, and the frost dragons unleashed their dragon breath, silencing the area. I looked south, where Vivian's Sky Knights were closing in. Finish them. Leave no one alive. The slaughter continued until dusk, when Zi Qiangwei finally ordered a halt at the southern portal. The Dragon Kingdom players were ecstatic, looting equipment and celebrating their kills. They boasted of their victories over the coalition forces, reveling in the carnage. Night Demon is the GOAT. We couldn't have done it without his buffs. The Dragon Legion was unstoppable. The players were energized. It had been a long time since the Dragon Kingdom had achieved such a resounding victory against the combined forces of their rivals. The armies of the India, Sakura, and Universe Kingdoms were effectively wiped out, with survivors driven back across the portal. While Dragon Kingdom players enjoyed massive buffs and easy gains, major guilds were furious. They had planned to profit from my victory or crush me in defeat, but now they were locked out. They found themselves unable to enter the event map. Any Dragon Kingdom player who had exited the Shadow Realm early received a notification. Ding. For unknown reasons, your Shadow Portal has been closed. They were livid but helpless. With no way to enter, they considered attacking my territory instead. However, news of Aoshi Wushuang and Tiandi Ise being crushed spread instantly. Furthermore, the Church of Light's warning deterred any direct assault on my land. Warning. Attacking a God-ordained noble's territory is an act of war against the Church of Light. All affiliated churches will retaliate. Confirm. The system's booming voice terrified them. The title God-ordained noble sounded far too intimidating. Only the already hostile Tiandi Ise dared to attack, but the system provided no warnings for them. As for Aoshi Wushuang, I had driven them off before they even reached my territory. Major guilds could only watch in frustration as other players reaped massive rewards in the Shadow Realm. The war drew global attention, showcasing my terrifying forces: frost dragons, elven sharpshooters, sky knights, and silent, lethal shadows. Eve, the world's top player in the Eagle Kingdom's Eden, watched the footage in disbelief. She realized I had every unit type except tanks. When her own shadow portal was suddenly closed, she wondered if Night Demon truly possessed the authority to manipulate the system. Yet, she knew the Lord game had no cheats. She felt a deep sense of wariness. A subordinate entered, proposing an alliance with the Universe Kingdom. An anti-Night Demon alliance? Eve mused. Tell them Eden is in, and I will lead it. Indifferent to my enemy's schemes, I shut down the shadow portals for the Eagle Kingdom and other hostile nations. When accused of cheating on the forums, I bluntly replied, yes, I am a cheater. So what? The community realized I had indeed blocked access for nations that had targeted the Dragon Kingdom. Dragon Kingdom players celebrated, while foreign players faced the prospect of their trapped troops starving to death. The atmosphere was one of triumph for the Dragon Kingdom and misery for others. Official channels remained silent. I cared little for their plight. I met with my heroes and Yi Mingzhu, whose fanaticism toward me had grown, convinced I was the key to her revenge. She reported that she had driven the enemy into the southern swamps, where they were being camped by various guilds. Satisfied, I opened a portal to return home for rest. Exhausted, Cecilia asked, "Is being a paladin always this tiring?" I retorted that she was simply spamming skills too recklessly. I found her naive, saintly nature incompatible with my goals and suggested she return to the church. Cecilia looked devastated, pleading not to be sent away. I remained firm. Her presence complicated my secrets, such as Taiwanasi. Vivian, Sylvia, and Ina were easier to manage, but Cecilia was a liability. I needed to maintain strict secrecy. I cited church rules, claiming saints shouldn't participate in combat. Cecilia countered that experiencing human suffering was part of her training. I gave up. She was a powerful healer and a cheap guest, so I let her stay. I checked the event progress. The Cleanse Evil mission was only 40% complete with half the time gone. Unconcerned, I messaged Yi Mingzhu, tasking her with leading the players to finish the mission while providing her with a safe, efficient strategy. With my guidance and the massive army, I knew she would succeed easily. Vivian brought a lavish dinner, which Cecilia praised highly. Vivian noted they had made enemies with 4 deities today. Cecilia asked if it was truly 4. Vivian listed them: the Dark Goddess, the God of Kobolds, an unknown demon king, and an unknown vampire matriarch. After counting on her fingers, Cecilia confirmed it. I pondered the situation. I had killed the priests of the Dark Goddess and the God of Kobolds, making them mortal enemies. The others were consequences of enslaving Taiwanasi, a demon king's daughter, which was a direct provocation. As a peak mythical vampire, she was likely linked to an immortal-grade vampire. I smiled dismissively, stating that growth requires offending others. I no longer feared them. In my past life, I survived demon invasions as a mere player. Even then, I dared attack the goddess of luck's divine kingdom. Vivian nodded, satisfied by my confidence. Cecilia added that they had many allies in the good faction. I checked my heroes. Ina, Sylvia, and Vivian were capped at level 40. I asked Cecilia about moonstones, but she only remarked on their beauty. I pressed her for a way to obtain them. Cecilia explained they were held by the Moonlight Church's high priests, who wouldn't even let her touch them. She suggested asking the Moon Dance Maiden. I realized Stephanie might help and contacted her. Stephanie replied that the goddess of moonlight required me to visit the church personally. I frowned, wondering why the goddess wanted to see me. The goddess of moonlight was vastly more powerful than Stephanie. She could easily crush Stephanie with a finger. However, as both were in the good faction, conflict was unlikely. I assumed my high reputation prompted the invitation. I agreed to go eventually, then summoned Sylvia to discuss her breakthrough. Sylvia asked why I wanted her. I inquired about the ancient Dragon Empire's ruins. Sylvia recalled her mother saying dragons once ruled the entire continent. She suggested the ruins belonged to that ancient era. I knew that in the future, Sylvia would find these ruins and rebuild the empire. Since I had to find them now, I dismissed her and ordered the troops to prepare for a night operation to utilize my buffs. My troops were ready for an all-nighter. I activated the final arcane golem core for 200 million crystals, completing my set of 4 legendary-grade golems. I had met the requirements to unlock recruitment permissions. Excited, I led my troops back into the Shadow Realm to the ruins, where the 4 golems synced their data. The golems bowed to me, acknowledging my royal lineage. They marched north, followed by hundreds of thousands of smaller golems, until they reached a vast, flat plain. The 4 golems released massive energy, shaking the earth. The ground split to reveal stairs leading to a massive underground facility, triggering a system notification and a 10,000x amplification on my reputation. The underground space was clearly artificial, with polished walls and carved pillars. It was a massive, man-made structure. I wondered if the Arcane Empire had built this factory within the Shadow Realm. I discovered millions of legendary-grade arcane golems in various states of assembly. If activated, they could conquer the existing empires. The facility's AI recognized my royal bloodline and granted me access, completing my unique hidden quest. I received 100 billion gold, arcane golem recruitment permissions, and 500 billion shadow points via 10,000x amplification. I unlocked a new building. All arcane golems are in position. The mission is complete. The rewards, 10 million gold and 50 million shadow points, are substantial, even without the 10,000 times amplification. However, these are useless to me. I ignore them to focus on the statue at the front of the hall, a petite, slender girl with long hair, rendered in lifelike detail. Feeling a sense of familiarity, I ask, Vivian, does this look familiar to you? Vivian stares at it and replies, it's Sister Layla. I twitch. What does that airhead Layla have to do with this? Suddenly, a faint phantom appears before me. Layla's form manifests, identical to the statue. She smiles. Thanks for everything. I interrupt. Just call me Yifan. I ask for an explanation, and Layla smugly reveals. Guess who the last princess of the Arcane Empire is? Layla pats her chest. That's right. It's me. I am stunned. This weak goddess, destined to fall in a few years, is actually the princess of the once mighty Arcane Empire? The Arcane Empire was technologically superior, commanding even the gods. Layla continues, sounding pleased. I had an agreement with the Shadow Dragon. No powerful divine arts or divine units in the Shadow Realm. The cores for these arcane golems are held by powerful factions. My mortal followers are too weak to survive here, so this place remained dormant for thousands of years. I'll reward you later. You can go now. I realize these were her secret troops, but she couldn't activate them. I also realize I've been watched this whole time. It was Layla spying on me. She treated me like a laborer, making me brave danger to find the golems, each requiring 200 million crystals to activate. Now she wants to dismiss me with a wave? My expression turns cold. Layla, you think you can just brush me off? Layla laughs. Want to fight? Don't think your moon dance maiden makes you untouchable. Show some respect to a god. She waves her arm, and the factory trembles. Walls retract to reveal thousands of cannons aimed at me. I use my detection spell. Item, Arcane Empire Supreme Defense Facility. Level 1, Grade, Legendary. Attack, 200,000 to 300,000. Skill. These are top-tier legendary defenses. There are thousands of them. As I prepare to use the Dragon Soul, a mechanical voice sounds. Alert! Target error, code 138. I realize something and check the permissions. 1. Night Demon, 100,000. 2. Layla, 100. 3. Shelter, 50. As a royal descendant, I originally had 10 points. Layla likely set this up as a legacy for her descendants. The 10,000 times amplification system boosted my permission to 100,000, making me immune to the facility's attacks. Layla is baffled. She set the max at 100. I sneer. I am taking over all management permissions. Strip Layla of all access. Alert! All factory permissions transferred. Layla's access removed. I snap my fingers, and the cannons pivot to aim directly at a shocked Layla. Layla steps back, panicking. Yifan, don't do anything rash. I'm a god. I reply. Right, and a god shouldn't fear legendary cannons, right? Layla twitches. This is her physical avatar, which cost her massive divine power to create. If it dies, she loses half her power and might perish. She quickly says, I apologize, okay? She adds, I was just playing with you. You helped me so much, I wouldn't actually hurt you. I roll my eyes, sensing no real malice. I turn my attention to the factory's full data. Description, large-scale factory built by Princess Layla, designed by the scientist Shelter. Level, 10 max. Area, 2 million units. Includes production lines, storage, and meeting rooms. 3.25 million legendary arcane golems, inactive. Defenses, 43.68 million arcane energy cannons, 56.58 million arcane traps. Magic power, 31.98 million/9.99 quadrillion. I am stunned by the scale. The arcane energy extractor can process infinite crystals, and the storage capacity is nearly infinite. The arcane spatial storage also shares this massive 9.99 quadrillion limit. The facility's high durability and magical defenses were timely for me, as my territory was overflowing with resources. My existing warehouses couldn't hold my quadrillions in assets, nor my 3.25 million legendary grade arcane golems. These arcane golems were vastly superior to crown tier units. If fully activated, they would be a force capable of intimidating the entire Lost Continent, provided no divine units intervened. As I considered seizing them, Layla panicked, fearing I would strip her of her assets. Layla insisted they were hers, but when I challenged her to command them, she was left speechless, fuming with indignation. Insulted, the goddess of phantoms grabbed Vivian's hand, ready to vent her frustration. She tearfully claimed these golems were her dowry and accused me of ruining her marriage prospects. Vivian and I were left speechless by her absurdity. Vivian skeptically asked if these were truly her dowry. Layla confirmed, prompting Vivian to ask why she became a goddess. Layla revealed she ascended out of spite after her father betrothed her to a stranger. Everyone was stunned by the casual nature of her divine ascension. Layla recalled her past as the Empire's first marshal, commanding these elite legions. I acknowledged her history. Even a weak goddess was once a formidable mortal. Layla insisted she had smuggled these assets out of the capital before her wedding day. She begged me not to take them, leaving Vivian to look at me for a decision. I noted that Layla lacked the resources to activate the golems anyway. Layla bristled at the suggestion that she was finished. Having recently consumed divine power crystals, she felt fine. I proposed an alliance. I suggested Layla befriend my goddess, Stephanie. Stephanie, watching from the divine kingdom, was pleased by my possessive phrasing. Layla considered the alliance, noting Stephanie's gentle nature. I bluntly stated that an alliance meant the golems became mine, mocking Layla's attempt to charm her way out of my grudge. Layla retorted that I couldn't activate them regardless. I checked the requirements: 200 million crystals and an arcane core activation key. The crystal cost was manageable for me. Layla explained that her father had installed a dual-key system requiring both her and the scientist Shelter to activate them. I recognized the name of the Empire's greatest scientist. Layla claimed Shelter was still alive, challenging me to kill him if I wanted the golems. She promised to surrender everything if I succeeded. A system prompt appeared. I accepted the unique hidden quest, which was classified as SSS rank. The quest required killing Shelter, whose soul persisted despite his physical death. The quest was a unique hidden mission with a difficulty of 5 billion, offering unknown rewards. The system warned of deadly traps within the first research institute. A 5 billion difficulty rating was staggering, nearly matching the threat of the green-skinned orc gods. I decided to postpone the quest, prioritizing the growth of my own strength. I couldn't take the golems yet, but I moved to the control center to loot other assets, with a fuming Layla in tow. The center housed various instruments and a glowing, basketball-sized orb. This was the factory's artificial intelligence. The AI greeted me as a royal descendant. It identified itself as AI 4396. Layla demanded to know whose descendant I was. The AI hesitated, further infuriating Layla. It eventually stated that my genetic profile matched Layla's betrothed. Layla shrieked in denial, refusing to accept the connection. She was horrified that a stranger was now controlling her family's factory. Ignoring her, I ordered the AI to provide all architectural blueprints. The system flooded me with notifications as I unlocked numerous new building designs. I reviewed my new acquisitions. I examined the information for each item. Space Fluorspar allows the creation of massive storage spaces for resources, though living beings cannot be stored. Level 1. Construction cost: 10 trillion crystals, 5,000 space fluorspar. Function: resource storage. Magic energy converter. Uses lasers to cut crystals and generate mana. Level 1. Construction cost: 10 trillion crystals, 5,000 laser generators. Function: mana conversion. I noted the steep resource requirements. I was shocked by the costs, especially the rare space fluorspar and obsolete laser generators. However, money was no object for me. I commanded the AI to upload all production blueprints. The system confirmed the upload and unlocked a massive library of schematics. The system triggered the 10,000 times amplification, granting me a new title for unlocking so many blueprints. After minutes of notifications, I browsed over 5,000 blueprints, ranging from equipment to consumables, showcasing the arcane empire's immense power. Laser generator, a precision component for firing lasers. Level 1. Cost 200,000 crystals, 20 fluorescent stones. Production, Arcane Empire production line. The costs were manageable. Arcane defense armor, a mythical grade unit equipment that generates an arcane energy shield. Attributes, Arcane energy cannon, a legendary grade defensive facility for walls with immense destructive power. Attributes, materials, 50,000 units, 300 million crystals. Production, Arcane Empire production line. I was excited. I could mass-produce these cannons if I solved the energy issue, creating a spectacular defensive force. Since all necessary materials could be produced via my lines or purchased with gold, production was entirely feasible. I then checked my new title. Title, Mythical, unique hidden title. Effect, 80% success rate for crafting equipment and items. I was stunned. An 80% success rate was astronomical compared to the sub 10% rates for legendary items or the near-zero rates for mythical gear, even for master dwarven smiths. I decided to contact the Demon World Chamber of Commerce to source materials. The Chamber of Commerce was the only place with a complete enough inventory for my needs. I reviewed other buildings, research facilities for magic damage, advanced training grounds for rapid leveling, and high-level research centers for skill upgrades. While powerful, they required materials I couldn't yet produce. Once the Chamber of Commerce was secured, these hurdles would vanish. Layla looked devastated, watching me seize the Arcane Empire's millennia of accumulated knowledge. She valued the technological research more than the millions of legendary arcane golems. I teased her, "Don't look so grim, Goddess Layla." Layla glared, threatening to crash her divine kingdom into the main plane to destroy me. I realized she was at her breaking point. If she truly went all out, she could destroy my territory. I smiled. We're allies. Sharing technology is only natural. Layla sneered. I instructed the AI to restore her permissions. The AI confirmed Layla's permissions were restored to 100%. Layla calmed down, though I secretly ordered the AI to strip her access if she attempted to sabotage my assets. C-3392. I prepared to lead my troops away. I told Layla that trading these items for an alliance with me would prove worthwhile. Layla was momentarily stunned by my confidence. She found my arrogance laughable, a mere mortal acting so bold. Yet, reflecting on my recent feats, acquiring legendary units, outmaneuvering the goddess of poison, and obtaining a frost dragon, she reconsidered. C-3398. C-3398. I had single-handedly crushed the coalition in the Shadow Realm. As a former general, she knew how difficult those feats were. My potential was limitless. Godhood might be within my reach. I left the factory, setting my sights on Vivian's trial and a surprise for the goddess of darkness in the south. Cecilia was exhausted, nearly falling asleep on Ina. They felt a soul-chilling cold as the system warned them they had entered a dangerous area. I used a scout spell on a nearby shadow portal. Unknown trial portal, legendary grade. Level 1. Type, Hero Trial. Exclusive content. I entered the portal. The system warned that success would unlock my hero's level cap, while failure would permanently prevent future breakthroughs. The first stage began, a defense mission. My score would determine the rewards for Vivian. The trial took place in a town besieged by shadows. The inhabitants begged for the princess's help, confirming the objective: defend the town against the demon army. I inspected the town. Its defenses were pathetic, with fewer than 10,000 low-tier troops and only silver-grade walls. I would have to rely on my own forces. Suddenly, dark portals materialized around the town, exuding a familiar, terrifying aura of destruction as demons began to emerge. The demons were pitch black, ranging from humanoid shapes to beasts, all sporting hideous horns or gaping maws. I noted the enemy count, 368,500. I didn't need a scout spell. My memories provided all their stats. I was intimately familiar with demons. A quick glance made me smile. The strongest among them were merely tier 5 demon lords. They were just fodder. I ordered my heroes to attack. Sylvia led the charge, her frost dragons blanketing the portals with dragon breath, obliterating demons as they spawned. The surviving shadows cheered, mistaking the dragons for reinforcements for their princess. Watching the shadows gossip about my intimacy with Vivian, I remained silent, while Vivian held my hand, her touch cool. The shadows stared in stunned silence. I felt their heartbreak. The enemy count hit 0, and the system announced I had cleared the first stage with an SSS rank rating, triggering the second stage. I frowned. The SSS rank requirement for progression was brutal. The new enemy count was 1.5 million. These demons were stronger, averaging tier 5 and level 40, with clear tactical formations. Regardless, they were still spawn-camped. INA's archers rained arrows into the portals. The demons fell like wheat. Confused and overwhelmed, the demons were slaughtered before they could even react. Within 30 minutes, the system chimed again. I had cleared the second stage with an SSS rank rating. The final stage was now beginning, promising a reward upon completion. Warning: due to unknown reasons, all monsters in the third stage are buffed by 10,000%. I was stunned. 100-fold increase? I suspected the demon I had offended was behind this. A massive portal appeared to the north, spewing out Batwing Abyss demons. These legendary flying units were notorious for their long-range, high-damage AoE fire attacks. In future wars, these demons would become humanity's greatest nightmare. The enemy count reached 30 million. 30 million legendary flying units were a nightmare even in the late game. For me, however, it was manageable. Factors like equipment, skills, levels, and awakenings dictated combat power, while the flame sharpshooters had shorter range than the Batwing Abyss demons. I activated my range-boosting skill, doubling their reach. I then swapped to a defensive buff. This buff granted my units 500% increased defense, an absurd figure for legendary units. The demons couldn't even scratch my forces. Sylvia and Vivian ordered the Sky Knights to charge, their lances unleashing devastating energy. I stopped worrying. My units were invincible. It took longer to hunt down the mobile flying units, but eventually, Sylvia crushed the last one. As I waited for the final boss, a terrifying aura erupted from the portal. A massive, 100-meter-long arm covered in blood red, pustule-like eyes emerged. I used my scout spell. It was the arm of an ancient demon god from the depths of the abyss, now possessing its own sentience. It was a mythical grade, tier 8, level 50 boss with 1.5 trillion HP and 66,880 attack. Its skills included high-level magic resistance, sweep, grasp of destruction, and plague spread. Being linked to an ancient demon god made it significantly stronger than standard bosses. Its stats and skills were terrifying. With high defense and a passive aura that drained HP, it was a nuisance. If left unchecked, even my units would slowly succumb to the plague. For any other player, this boss would be a catastrophic wall. But to me, defense was a joke. I ordered my heroes to unleash every buff and focus fire. In a single second, the boss was vaporized before it could act, its massive arm crashing to the ground. The system announced my total SSS rank completion and awarded me 2 million gold and a mythical gift box. 10,000 times amplification triggered, 20 billion gold, and 10,000 mythical gift boxes. My heroes' level caps were unlocked, and they gained new skills. A world announcement declared me the first player to clear the legendary trial, awarding 200 reputation and a mythical gift box. 10,000 times amplification triggered, 2 million reputation, and an immortal gift box. Players were shocked, realizing the Night Demon had been busy clearing a secret realm. They resolved to follow his subordinates, like Yi Mingzhu, to keep up. They reasoned that following her was the same as following the Night Demon himself. Inspired by my late-night grind, the players felt a renewed sense of motivation. I was stunned by the system notification. The legendary trial rewarded 10,000 Godhead fragments of an ancient demon god. These fragments are highly coveted within the evil faction, often sparking bloody conflicts. The boss's corpse dissolved into gray mist and vanished. Finding no loot drops, I checked my inventory for the trial rewards. Item: Ancient Demon God Godhead Fragment. Grade: Immortal. Effect: used to condense the Ancient Demon God's Godhead. 10,000,000,000,000. I frowned. It requires 10 million fragments to fully condense. My current stash of 10,000 pales in comparison to the requirements for a god of slaughter's godhead. There is a massive gap between gods. The god of slaughter is clearly far superior to this ancient demon god. I mused. I stored the fragments and continued checking my rewards. Item: Ancient Demon God Enchantment Card. Grade: Mythical. Lore: contains the power of a demon god who once held poison-related divine offices. Effect: adds an attribute to hero equipment. Deals 50,000 poison damage per second to enemies within 5,000 yards. Toggleable. Restriction: hero equipment only, single use. I was stunned by the card's power. It was the boss's own skill, an absurdly strong mythical grade enchantment. 50,000 DPS in a 5,000-yard radius meant I could wipe out any current player army just by standing still. Weaker units would be instantly killed. With my top-tier enchanting station, success was guaranteed. I decided to enchant Vivian's gear. Her equipment grows infinitely, making a mythical enchantment a long-term investment. I saved the card for later and opened the Immortal Grade gift box. Triggering 10,000 times amplification, I obtained an Immortal Wonder Building. Item: Special Ancient Demon God Structure designed to weaken enemies. Grade: Immortal Wonder. Effect: select a god to reduce their daily faith value gain by 90%. I was shocked by this unprecedented effect. Reducing a god's faith value by 90% is devastating, as faith converts into divine power. For gods with high divine power expenditures, this is a death sentence. I considered my targets. The goddess of poison? No. She is already weak, fleeing through the universe while her church in the main plane is being purged by the good faction. She is doomed to fall within years. However, her divine office is still coveted. Since her priests attacked my territory, I decided to gift this curse to her instead. I then checked Vivian's hero interface. Vivian had unlocked a new skill, Shadow Realm Aura, LV Max. Effect: grants all units in the territory 90% evasion. This was incredibly useful. Evasion is rare in this game and acts as a hard counter to physical damage. With this, 90% of incoming physical attacks would miss my entire army. As an SSS rank hero, Vivian had proven her worth. A gray light enveloped my units, teleporting them out of the secret realm. It was 3 a.m. A drowsy Cecilia asked, "Lord Night Demon, where to now?" I decided to rest, noting I could return to the Shadow Realm anytime. Vivian suddenly suggested, "Why not visit my home, the Shining Fortress?" It was located at the exact center of the Shadow Realm, hidden from player maps. The path to the fortress was unconventional. Vivian led them through a long, narrow underground tunnel. An hour later, they emerged before a magnificent, glowing fortress. The structure was hundreds of meters tall, larger than a standard castle. I sensed terrifying power within. The system chimed. Discovered special map, reputation plus 100,000. Total reputation, 1 billion. A massive crowd appeared before them. Thousands of knights on nightmare beasts, clad in black armor with glowing red eyes, stood ready. They knelt. "Greetings, princess." "Greetings, prince consort." I blinked at the title, then used my scout spell. Info: Shadow Princess Vivian's Second Night Order, responsible for the Shining Fortress's security. Forces: 5.26 million Shadow Guard Knights, Crown Tier. 3.8 million Shadow Veteran Mages, Crown Tier. I was stunned. Over 9 million Crown Tier units? Crown Tier units are notoriously difficult to recruit. Even with multipliers, a Frost Dragon only produces 1,000 units a day. Millions of units would take ages to accumulate. I looked at Vivian with new curiosity regarding her true identity. They entered the opulent palace, filled with ornate sculptures and magical lighting, yet eerily silent. Cecilia marveled. "It's beautiful, Sister Vivian. Is this your home?" Vivian nodded and assigned rooms. She placed me in her own. Ina blushed, Sylvia sneered with disdain, and Cecilia looked on in confusion. Continued from above. I remained completely unfazed. I dismissed everyone to sleep and followed Vivian into her bedroom. The room was filled with Vivian's faint, elegant scent. Vivian, indifferent to my presence, changed out of her armor into a thin nightgown, her silhouette glowing under the moonlight. I asked, "Is this massive castle yours alone?" Vivian nodded, adding, "Occasionally, Guests like Sister Layla come to keep me company. I felt a pang of heartache for her. Seeing her solitary life, Vivian smiled and waved her hand to reassure me. "I'm used to it," she said, offering me wine. I accepted. Vivian poured a glass, took a small sip, and then kissed me. The next morning, I woke up stiff. Vivian was already dressed in her armor. Over a late breakfast, the group chatted, with Cecilia jokingly noting it was lunchtime. Vivian suddenly announced, "The Shining Fortress has 10 knight legions and a population of 7 trillion. Everyone gasped in shock. I was stunned. Even Cecilia looked incredulous. This number far exceeded the total strength of the Church of Light's paladins. Vivian added, "Over 300 billion are crown tier units, 4 trillion are legendary, and the rest are high tier. They are all max level and ready for you to command. Consider them my dowry." The system confirmed I had gained full authority over these 7 trillion troops. The other heroines were left speechless by the sheer scale and quality of this dowry. The group struggled to process that such a world-ending force was being gifted as a wedding present. I tapped Vivian's head, demanding an explanation for the existence of such an army. Vivian explained, "These are the elite of the entire Shadow Realm. They shouldn't appear in the main plane unless absolutely necessary. That would trigger a plain war," she warned. The group grew solemn. History recorded only 2 such catastrophic events, both involving divine-level conflicts. Cecilia asked, "Isn't the Shadow Realm neutral?" Vivian replied, "The Lord's stance is the Shadow Realm's stance." She added that the Shadow Dragon would support a war if I ordered it. I, realizing my influence, decided against immediate conflict, knowing that even with 7 trillion troops, I needed a better opportunity to avoid the fate of the demons. I ordered, "Keep these troops in the Shadow Realm for now." Vivian nodded, content to let me decide. Cecilia felt bitter, realizing the sheer destructive potential of these forces. She could only hope I remained benevolent. After breakfast, I returned to my territory to conduct my daily recruitment. I recruited 4,000 flame sharpshooters, 4,000 sky knights, 4,000 shadow phantom assassins, and 1,000 frost dragons. My total force now included 20,000 flame sharpshooters, 20,000 sky knights, 9,000 frost dragons, 905 holy radiance priests, and 8,000 shadow phantom assassins. Lacking recruitment permissions for more priests, I realized I needed to find the goddess of life's temple soon to prepare for my eventual break from the Church of Light. Meanwhile, global forums were filled with players from other nations accusing me of cheating after I blocked their access to the Shadow Realm. Nations like the Eagle and Sakura Kingdoms were among those barred from the Shadow Realm. The official channels ignored the complaints, while Dragon Kingdom players mocked the disgruntled foreigners. I noted that my countrymen were gaining a significant lead in progress. The Holy War mission was nearing completion, currently at 90%. I considered building an astral portal, but realized I first needed to increase my mana extractor output to power it. Suddenly, the system summoned me and Cecilia to a high-level military meeting at the Church of Light. I decided to skip it, prioritizing my search for the Demon World Chamber of Commerce. I told Cecilia, "I'll have Sylvia escort you back. I have to command the Holy War." Cecilia pouted, clearly unhappy about being recalled so soon. Despite her reluctance, she followed Sylvia. With them gone, I felt relieved. I ordered Vivian and Ina to prepare for a mission to the Underdark, leaving the dragons and Sylvia behind. Using speed scrolls and shadow mist, we reached the destination in just 30 minutes. At the entrance, they encountered a group of dark elves discussing their plans to kill human intruders for food. These enemies would have been a major threat to ordinary players. To me, they were merely experience points. I ordered my troops to attack. The 10,000 times amplification system triggered, granting me massive experience. The Dark Elf force was wiped out in seconds. As my group moved on, a lone survivor crawled from the wreckage, trembling in terror. Terrifying troops. They wiped out our city elites in an instant. If not for this ancestral legendary grade pendant, I would be dead. Could this human possess a legendary unit? I must report this powerful human force to the city lord immediately. I ignored the Dark Elf, leading my hidden troops deeper underground. An hour later, I arrived at my destination. I had bypassed 3 dark elf cities, including a major one equipped with legendary-grade defensive towers. Hidden by my shadow mist, I reached the entrance to Tijuana's dungeon undetected. I stood before the long entrance and shouted, "Tijuana's, come out and greet your guest." A spatial ripple appeared, and a petite figure emerged. Why are you here?" Tijuana's asked, clearly annoyed. "Just checking on your progress," I replied, accessing the dungeon's data as her master. After a quick scan, I nodded. "Not bad. You've reached level 2. Tijuana's trembled with rage, her teeth grinding. This man was infuriating. He had destroyed her level 11 dungeon just yesterday and was now mocking her. "Are you here just to taunt me?" she snapped. I brushed it off. "I don't have time for that. I need to contact the Demon World Chamber of Commerce." Tijuana's gasped in shock. "How do you know about them? Isn't it normal to know them?" I asked. Tijuana scoffed. It was anything but normal. The Demon World Chamber of Commerce only served the Demon King's royal lineage, immortal-grade beings, and their heirs. I had found the right people. She glared at me and led the way into the dungeon, navigating a maze of traps. As her master, I saw every trap layout in real time. Tijuana's was furious, realizing she could never escape my control. Minutes later, they reached the dungeon core. I scratched my face, looking at the blood-red core. A bit cramped, isn't it? It's a level 2 dungeon. What do you expect? Tijuana's fumed. The dungeon was pathetic, filled with low-level demons and weak traps, though it was rich in resources. "Contact the Chamber of Commerce," I ordered. "Bring me the highest-level merchant." Transactions were face-to-face, and the merchant's rank determined the available inventory. Higher-level merchants required higher summoning costs. Tijuana's led me to a rotating black portal, annoyed that I was footing the bill. She cut her finger, offering a drop of blood to the portal. Black flames erupted, forming a slender figure, a girl with pale skin. She blinked, looking around. "Hee, princess, what happened to your dungeon?" Tijuana's twitched, annoyed by the reminder. "This is my consort," Tijuana's said, pointing at me. "He's the one buying." She had to invent a title. Admitting I was her master would be a fate worse than death. The girl eyed them suspiciously. "A consort? Nice to meet you. Human. I am Cindy, the top-tier merchant of the Demon World Chamber of Commerce." An ID appeared above her head. Cindy. My eyes narrowed. She was infamous for once tearing apart several legendary-grade paladins. I cast a scout spell. Description: one of the 3 top merchants. Rank: class: Archmage. Grade: Mythical, Tier 9. Her gear hid most stats, but I gleaned enough. She was a peak Tier 9 mythical being, nearly a god. The Chamber of Commerce must have restricted her. "What would you like to purchase, consort?" Cindy asked with a smile. 40,000 space fluorites for 100,000 fluorescent stones, 2 ancient blue ices. I listed my needs. Tijuana's was shocked by the cost, but Cindy's eyes lit up. "And how will you pay?" "Godhead fragments," I replied calmly. Cindy's smile froze. Tijuana's was stunned. Godhead fragments were incredibly rare, unseen in the chamber for centuries. Cindy breathed heavily. "I will need to appraise them." I tossed her a black crystal, an ancient demon god's godhead fragment. Cindy's eyes widened. It was a genuine demon god fragment, the highest value currency. Cindy caressed the crystal. "If you pay with these, the total cost will be 32 fragments." I paused. Cindy panicked, fearing she had overcharged me and I might revert to gold coins. I felt the price was incredibly cheap. I traded 35 godhead fragments, useless to me, for a massive haul of rare materials from the Demon World Chamber of Commerce, keeping 3 extra fragments to ensure Cindy's silence. Cindy accepted them joyfully, promising that the Chamber of Commerce prioritized absolute client confidentiality. With a wave of her hand, she summoned dark flames that dissipated to reveal the requested materials. System notifications flooded my interface, confirming the receipt of tens of thousands of items. I stored the materials, significantly boosting my strength. Tijuana watched with longing, but when I teased her with a fragment, I ultimately refused to give it to her. I joked that the god who owned the fragment had been covered in pustules, warning her of the risks of inheriting such a grotesque appearance. Tijuana was stunned, realizing she had misunderstood my intentions. I admitted I wasn't entirely sure if that would happen, as no humans had achieved godhood in my previous life. I shuddered at the thought of my cute slave turning into a hideous monster. Dismissing the idea, I claimed I would have plenty of godhead fragments later. Tayawanasi remained skeptical, viewing my words as mere boasting. She recalled how her own siblings had waged brutal wars just to obtain a single fragment. I didn't bother explaining. I knew that in the late game, gods would fall in droves, making fragments easy to acquire. I planned for Tayawanasi to eventually ascend, which was why I kept her as a slave. I informed her that I would soon install an astral portal subgate. I planned to build arcane energy extractors and arcane spatial storage units to solve her territory's energy and logistics issues, along with advanced defensive structures. I handed her a city relocation token, instructing her to prepare for a relocation in a few months. A dungeon functioned like a player's territory, but under the control of a demon king's heir, manifesting as an underground city. These dungeons used traps and mazes to eliminate intruders. I saw the underground world as a goldmine. Unlike the surface, where the good faction would retaliate against me, the underground was fragmented and indifferent to my actions, making it the perfect base for my development. My plan was to focus on growth for both myself and Tayawanasi. Once strong enough, we would occupy a floating island, using its defenses to become untouchable. Tayawanasi would remain my hidden ace. She accepted my plan without objection. A demon rushed in, reporting an attack by millions of dark elves. Tayawanasi was shocked by the scale of the invasion. Her dungeon was still in its infancy and ill-equipped to fight a major dark elf city. She had been extremely cautious, making discovery unlikely. She glared at me, suspecting I was the cause. I laughed and ordered Vivian and Ina to handle it. I hesitated, worried that Ina, a kind-hearted dark elf, might break down if forced to slaughter her kin. Ina insisted, revealing the attackers were from Black Onyx City, the very people who had killed her sisters. Realizing my oversight, I gave the order. Within 5 minutes, the heroes returned, having wiped out the entire force. Tayawanasi was stunned by the speed and efficiency of the slaughter. I returned to my territory, then used the Shadow Channel to reach the factory in the Shadow Realm, where I found Layla. Layla sat in the control center, looking utterly dejected. I ignored her mood and dumped the materials into the system to restart the production lines. The system announced the production of laser generators. It then began crafting mythical-grade arcane armor. The factory roared to life after 1,000 years of silence. Layla remained slumped in her chair, unresponsive. Concerned, I asked what was wrong. Layla confessed that her believers were dying. I tried to comfort her, noting that most believers were just mortals. Only the most pious became petitioners in the afterlife. Layla revealed she had lost 1/3 of her followers, which was far from normal. She explained that her followers were concentrated in the Kent dynasty, which was currently embroiled in a civil war, making them targets. I understood the situation. Even petitioners often defected to other gods after their patron deity fell. Layla estimated she only had a month left, a timeline much faster than I remembered from my past life. Suspecting a butterfly effect, I reaffirmed my promise to intervene in the Kent dynasty. Layla seemed hopeless, but I remained determined. I realized I needed to accelerate my plans for the Kent kingdom. The production lines finished all items within 30 minutes. I was now capable of constructing various facilities. A final notification chimed, announcing a successful craft due to my high luck. I was shocked to find I had crafted an immortal-grade piece of equipment, a tier above the original design. I opened my inventory to inspect my first-ever immortal-grade item. The arcane divine armor, reinforced by Night Demon, is now immortal-grade. Crafted from pure magic fluid, it resists minor physical damage and features an internal energy storage to mitigate massive impacts. Grade: Immortal, Tier 1. Type: Unit Equipment. Level: 1. Attributes: 1. Unit Defense plus 200%, HP plus 200%. 2. Immune to physical damage from units below Legendary Grade. 3. Consumes energy to generate defensive fluid. Effect: generates a shield where 1 point of shield negates 10 damage. 4. Crystal absorption for recharging. 1 crystal equals 1 energy, cap, 5 million per unit. I was stunned by these absurd stats. Immortal-grade equipment was unheard of for ordinary players in my past life. Likely unseen by anyone in humanity, its 4 attributes were overwhelmingly powerful. The first attribute drastically boosts durability, turning even fragile shadow phantom assassins or healers into tanks. The second attribute's immunity to sub-legendary physical damage is ruthless. The synergy between the shield and energy consumption is simply too strong. Energy is consumed to negate incoming damage, keeping the unit protected. With a 5 million energy cap, the defensive potential is immense. This effectively grants every unit 50 million extra HP. While expensive, requiring 5 million crystals per unit, I can afford it, especially since I possess the blueprints. With my luck, I could potentially equip my entire army. Legendary units have 4 equipment slots, currently mostly empty. Crown tier units have 8 slots. I realized I could potentially equip every single unit with immortal-grade gear. I produced 10 more sets. At 2 billion crystals each, the 20 billion total cost was negligible to me. Ding. Production Line 1 operating. Arcane Divine Armor, Mythical. Ding. Production Line 2 operating. Arcane Divine Armor, Mythical. 10 production lines engaged, exhausting my materials. Half an hour later, they finished. Ding. Due to high luck, new inspiration led to a successful creation. Ding. Due to high luck, new inspiration led to a successful creation. I was stunned to find I had produced 10 more immortal-grade arcane divine armors. The success rate was suspiciously high. I jokingly considered building an altar to the goddess of luck. Returning to my territory, I began construction. Ding. Consumed 10 trillion crystals and 5,000 space fluorite to build. Ding. Consumed 10 trillion crystals and 5,000 space fluorite to build. The territory rumbled with activity. Using acceleration cards, I instantly completed and maxed out all new buildings. I examined the 2 high-tech, azure glowing structures. Arcane Storage uses space fluorite to create a massive storage space for continental resources, non-living. Level 10. Arcane Energy Extractor uses lasers to cut crystals into magic energy. Level 10. Both buildings were at their peak, with massive storage and conversion capacities. I cleared my territory by moving all resources into storage and set the extractor to maintain 500 billion magic energy. I placed the final 3 buildings in the east, where they shimmered with azure light. I checked their stats. Royal Magic Academy researches magic-related projects. Level 10. No current projects or heroes assigned. I reviewed the available research options. 1. Fire Magic Attack, LV1 plus 30% damage. 2. Thunder Magic Attack, LV1 plus 30% damage. 3. Wind Magic Attack, LV1 plus 30% damage. 4. Fire Magic Resistance, LV1 plus 8%. There were 15 options in total, covering all elements. Each project could be leveled to 10. Maxing these would grant plus 300% magic damage/healing and plus 80% resistance. With gear, I could reach 100% magic immunity. I assigned Ina to lead research. Royal Training Ground simulates battlefield environments to provide massive EXP. Level 10. Capacity 20 million units. Royal Library enhances unit skills. Level 10. These were the ultimate versions of my previous facilities. The training ground could handle 20 million units. With my 10,000 times amplification, they would level instantly. I no longer needed to grind. New units would reach max level overnight. I assigned Vivian to the library and Ina to the academy. Finally, I built the Arcane Golem Factory, maxing it to level 10 for a daily output of 500 units. Arcane Golems, Tier 13, Crown Tier, cost 3,000 crystals, 30 steel pipes, and 300 arcane gears. Production time, 30 seconds. Like frost dragons, arcane golems have extremely strict production requirements. They require vast amounts of crystals and parts. For me, this is trivial. I have abundant crystals, and materials are simply a matter of gold. The materials for arcane golems are common in major imperial markets. However, I am too lazy to travel. The Lost Continents empires are hostile, and their markets are not interconnected. Players usually have to travel between cities to gather specific materials. I solve this by posting trade requests on the trading house. Players immediately notice. Night Demon is buying materials. Look at these prices. He's paying 310 gold for pipes that cost 300. That's pure profit. Players scramble to supply me, thinking they've found a fortune while actually working for me. Within 30 minutes, I receive a massive influx of materials and recruit 1,000 5-meter-tall golems. These golems are deep blue and streamlined, though smaller than the legendary versions found in factories. I inspect their stats. Description: Standard Arcane Golem from the Arcane Empire, known for high defense. Level 1. Attack 650 to 685. Defense 1250. Tier 13. Race Construct. HP 350,000. Skill Arcane Body LV Max. Effect 90% physical damage reduction. Note: material quality is at its limit. Skill Arcane Reconstruction LV Max. Effect: when HP drops to 10%, the golem disassembles into a core and respawns at full health upon recharging. No cooldown. Destruction of the core kills it permanently. Skill Arcane Morph LV Max. Effect: can change size and shape based on energy. Current size 5/200. Skill Arcane Discharge LV1. Effect: deals Fizz/Magic Attack *2 damage to up to 200 enemies. Morale/Loyalty Max. Energy cost 5,000 crystals/day. The golems are clearly defined as top-tier tanks. With 350,000 base HP at level 1, they dwarf other crown-tier units. They have significantly more HP than frost dragons. Without special gear or skills, even other crown-tier units struggle to pierce their defense. Their attack power is low, ranking at the bottom of crown-tier units. Yet, they outperform legendary units. With 90% physical reduction and regeneration, they are anti-physical specialists. Their size-shifting ability adds tactical flexibility, allowing them to adapt to terrain like underground tunnels, expanding up to 200 meters. A few dozen golems can link up to form an impenetrable wall. The fourth skill is a minor damage dealer. With my buffs, it can still one-shot high-tier units. I dismiss them and place the astral portal in my territory. Description: high-level mechanical race portal. Stable and durable. Grade: Mythical. Type: Mother Gate. HP: 100 billion. Daily limit: 100 trillion. Subgates: 50 million. Energy cost: 80 million/day. The maintenance cost is astronomical, far beyond normal players. I initiate subgate creation. Cost: 2 million iron, 1 million crystals. I confirm, and a small portable portal appears in my inventory. I plan to place subgates at the City of Light, the Arcane Empire Factory, the Shining Fortress, and Tijuana's dungeon. I craft 7 subgates total, 4 for deployment and 3 for emergencies. I then turn to a dusty blueprint in my inventory. The 9 Hammers of Destiny is a famous immortal-grade equipment. As the signature weapon of the Dwarf God King, it is crucial for the future conquest of the 8 Gods Mountain. I, having prepared materials, head to the forging table to begin. As I activate the forge, a thunderous sound erupts. Powerful, mysterious auras descend upon my territory as various deities begin watching. I, empowered by Stephanie's divine energy, sense their presence. Numerous deities, including the Dwarf God King, are observing. The Goddess of Misfortune and the Goddess of Luck are also present, bickering as usual. Dozens of deities, good, neutral, and evil, watch with covetous eyes. I sneer. If they dare attack, they won't leave alive. I proceed with the forging. The watching deities marvel, noting that the 9 Hammers of Destiny hasn't been forged in 800 years. An arrogant brat. He's surely going to fail and waste precious resources. Indeed, the 9 Hammers of Destiny are supreme artifacts from the dawn of time. Even the Dwarf God King couldn't forge them. Where does he get his confidence? Wait, is that an Arcane Empire forging table? So what? Even with the best tools, no one has succeeded. The gods watched, amused. The 9 Hammers were legendary, rumored to belong to an ancient deity, not the Dwarf God King, who merely claimed them. Countless had failed, losing their materials in the process. The project was notorious for being a trap. Neither Stephanie, Layla, nor I were aware of these ancient secrets. I didn't care to know. I never doubted my success. Suddenly, a brilliant seven-colored light erupted across my territory, followed by a system chime. Forging successful. The news has spread across the universe. Your reputation has increased by 2 million. You triggered 10,000 times amplification. Reputation increased by 20 billion. Warning. Countless evil deities are preparing to attack your territory. Prepare yourself. The gods were stunned. How is this possible? He succeeded. Such powerful energy. It's real. Who is this kid? How does a moon dance maiden have such a saint? Greed rippled through the divine ranks. The 9 hammers were the ultimate immortal artifact. I, however, remained indifferent. With my mythical grade title and 10,000 times amplification, failure was impossible. I inspected my new creation. I was momentarily bewildered. Was this really an immortal grade hammer? Resting on the table was a tiny, palm-sized mallet. It looked like a miniature toy. Yet, upon closer inspection, it featured intricate patterns and hovered eerily above my palm. I cast a scout spell to reveal its stats. Description: forged at the dawn of time, this hammer defeated one of the 3 great evil gods. It only recognizes the extremely lucky. It grows stronger alongside its master. Grade: Immortal, Tier 9. Type: Special weapon, no equipment slot required. Level: 1. Attack, Intelligence x 3000. Attribute: Magic attack, plus 1000%. Effect 2. Autonomous target acquisition. Deals Intelligence x 3000 damage to 10 random enemies per second. Effect 3. Size can be altered based on the user's divine power. Current size: 1 minimum. Effect 4. Attacks have a 10% chance to trigger special effects. Stun for 9s. Bind for 9s. Confuse for 9s. Freeze for 9s. Poison for 9s. Burn for 9s. Vulnerability plus 99% for 9s. Slow 99% for 9s. 99x damage. I gasped. It was a special weapon that didn't occupy a slot, effectively giving me an extra weapon. The stats were monstrous, and it could grow infinitely with my strength. The hammer hovered by my side, automatically seeking targets. Killing 10 units per second with such high damage coefficients was terrifying. I realized that, like many immortal-grade items, its full potential required divine power to activate. I would need to ascend to godhood to unlock its hidden skills. The skill descriptions were dizzying. Overall, it was packed with every conceivable debuff. The 99x damage chance meant an instant kill for almost any target. With my resources overflowing from the Shadow Realm, I decided to focus on development. I tasked Ina with magic research and Sylvia with setting up portals. Vivian and I would handle the Underdark portal personally. To my surprise, Tijuana's dungeon was on the brink of collapse upon my arrival. Dark elves were swarming the entrance. Tijuana's was panicking, ready to flee. I signaled Vivian, and my Sky Knights and Shadow Phantom Assassins began the slaughter. Tijuana's stomped her feet, furious. "What kind of trouble did you bring here?" I shrugged. "Just a medium-sized dark elf city, a few tens of billions of people." Tijuana's twitched. She couldn't handle that with her current forces. The little girl shrieked, "I'm moving." Ignoring her, I deployed the astral portal. Portal placed. The 3-meter-tall structure touched the ceiling. Tijuana's gasped at the mythical-grade portal. I then tossed out 3,000 defensive cannons. These were far superior to the custom ones she had previously purchased from gnomes. She quickly claimed the cannons, her fear replaced by greed. I smirked, still moving. She blinked innocently. Did I say that? I rolled my eyes at her shamelessness. With 3,000 legendary-grade defenses, the girl's confidence soared as Vivian finished clearing the dungeon. Tijuana's. "With this portal, you can request reinforcements, but you must come yourself." She looked suspicious. I sneered. "My territory doesn't welcome demons." I had to maintain my cover as a god-granted earl. As a high-blooded vampire, Tijuana's could easily conceal her identity. I gave her orders. Expand the dungeon aggressively. I demanded she reach level 5 within a month and wipe out all neighboring dark elf cities. It was a test. If she couldn't manage this, she wasn't worth my investment. The little girl scoffed, clenching her fists in defiance. With these resources, she could expand recklessly, leaving me stunned. Supporting Taiwanese also allowed Stephanie to develop her church safely. Once Taiwanese grew stronger, Stephanie's church could operate openly in the Underdark. With a witch as a guardian, who was there to fear? I returned to my territory and ordered my heroes to begin research. Moments later, the system's booming voice echoed. World announcement. The collective goal for the large-scale event has been achieved. Rewards are being calculated. Please wait. Calculation complete. All participants receive 2,000 gold and 20,000 basic resources. Due to minimal participation, the Universe, Sakura, Eagle, and India Kingdoms receive no rewards. Ranking settlement in progress. Dragon Kingdom ranks first. All players receive a 50% troop attack/defense buff for 7 days. The announcements lasted a minute, leaving players stunned before the realization hit. I had dominated the event, accumulating over 7 quadrillion shadow points. My total dwarfed all other players combined by a factor of 10,000, causing the system to disqualify other nations from rewards. Players from other countries gained nothing beyond standard monster experience and shop items. Dragon Kingdom players, however, celebrated their massive collective windfall of gold and resources. Furthermore, the top-ranking status granted everyone a 50% troop buff. This 7-day advantage would allow Dragon Kingdom players to pull far ahead of their rivals. We're rich. With the currency exchange opening soon, 2,000 gold is worth a fortune. I love you, Night Demon. Night Demon is the GOAT. We wouldn't have this without him. I don't even care about the rewards. It's just satisfying that other countries got nothing. Agreed. Meanwhile, players abroad were furious, blaming Yifan's dominance for their disqualification. Even neutral nations were excluded, sparking widespread resentment. In the Bear Kingdom, a burly leader roared, "Damn the Dragon Kingdom for costing us our rewards." His subordinates agreed. The Dragon Kingdom is rising and forgetting who the big brother is. We must teach them a lesson. The sleeping lion should have stayed asleep. Silence, a subordinate interrupted. Eve from the Eagle Kingdom invites us to join an alliance. The group was shocked, as the Bear and Eagle Kingdoms were enemies. An anti-Night Demon alliance? The leader asked. Yes, targeting him and the Dragon Kingdom. The leader sneered. The Eagle Kingdom is far away, but we share a border with the Dragon Kingdom. We'd be the first to suffer. Still, he added with resolve, we cannot let Night Demon grow unchecked. We're in. Meanwhile, my system notifications continued. 10,000 times amplification triggered. 20 million gold. 200 million basic resources. Amplification triggered. 1,000% troop attack/defense buff for 7 days. System noise. Rank 1 reward amplified. Shadow Labyrinth. Mythical. High damage contribution. Awarded title Plane Slayer. Diamond. Amplification triggered. Awarded title Plane Godslayer. Mythical. Holy War objective complete. SSS rating. Amplification triggered. 3 billion Church of Light contribution points and priority choice for God-affiliated territory. I ignored the resources, focusing on the 1,000% buff and the new artifact, a gray, misty crystal cube. Description: a secret realm born from the Shadow Realm's origin. Even legendary grade powerhouses lose their way. Grade: Mythical, Tier 9. Type: Special Territory Equipment. Effect: units below Mythical grade lose all sense of direction. Range: 20 billion tiles. I realized this was effectively an immortal grade artifact. It meant that as long as no Mythical grade units attacked, no enemy could ever reach my territory. They would be trapped, wandering aimlessly in the mist forever. The Shadow Labyrinth has no restrictions, allowing me to deploy defensive structures for offense. I immediately placed it within my territory. The crystal cube merged into the Lord's Hall, shrouding the territory in dense gray fog that reduced visibility to 1 meter. Even more extreme than the Shadow Realm. A new title followed. Title: Shadow Conqueror. Description: records your slaughter of evil beings in the Shadow Realm. You have adapted to foreign planes. Grade: Unique Hidden. Effect: increases damage by 500% in special plane maps. As a Mythical grade title, the damage boost is absurd. While limited to special planes, these maps are frequent in events and hidden quests outside the main plane. This title is highly useful. I can proactively invade other planes, a common late-game player activity involving looting resources or enslaving inhabitants. Such travel requires special tools. I stroked my chin, musing, perhaps it's time to conquer some planes early. The Holy War reward, earned through my solo SSS-rated performance, provided more than just contribution points. It significantly boosted my reputation within the church. A new count single-handedly completing a high-difficulty Holy War has caught the attention of the church's top brass. My influence within the church has undoubtedly surged. Regarding the priority choice for God-affiliated territory, the church grants these to nobles with outstanding contributions. These territories are powerful but belong to the church. Attacking one is a declaration of war against the entire church, making them untouchable. They also come with numerous privileges. Bonuses include doubled resource output, increased building durability, unit stat buffs, and defensive structure enhancements, essentially a cheat code. 1 day of development equals 4 or 5 for others. Priority access allows me to pick the best ones. I recalled that these territories cost trillions in contribution, a feat no player achieved in my past life. For me, it's easy. Time to haggle with the archbishops, I muttered. After tallying my rewards, Yi Mingzhu arrived with her troops, her cold demeanor now sharpened by killing intent. I dismissed the paladins, who returned to the City of Light via the portal. I handed Yi Mingzhu 3 types of high-tier Arcane Empire units, 8th and 9th rank, for frontline, DPS, and healing roles. I urged her to utilize her S-rank talent, 10 times the population and recruitment speed, to mass-produce troops. I handed her various tokens to exchange for church contribution and a nobility title. Though not a high-ranking title, it would elevate her status. It would make future operations easier. Yi Mingzhu accepted, thanking me. I lifted her chin, coldly remarking, "It's just a transaction. I own everything you are." She smiled sweetly. Suddenly, the system announced new population arrivals. Author's note: apologies for the delay. I wrote 35,000 words yesterday and have a splitting headache. I was surprised by the system notification of new arrivals. Seeing nothing upon my return, I headed to the gate, hearing chatter as I approached. "I'm scared of the fog." "Don't worry. The Night Demon Lord is kind and a saint of the moon dance maiden. But I heard he's a ruthless killer who wiped out billions." "That's just for bad guys, you idiot." I realized they were forest dryads. I arrived at the gate to see a group with elven features and deer lower bodies, led by Beatrice, an epic grade boss. Beatrice trembled under my gaze, but gathered her courage. "Lord Night Demon, we wish to become your vassal race. Vicious centaurs are attacking our home. Please help us defeat them. My sisters are willing to give their lives for you." The system prompted me to accept. Warning: accepting will trigger an attack by 68.52 million centaurs. I was stunned. A whole race migrating to a player's territory was unprecedented. Forest dryads are generally mid to high tier, not particularly strong. They rely mostly on poisoned spears. Beatrice, their leader, is only a level 40 epic boss. They are weak, but their million-strong population makes for excellent cannon fodder. Despite their reputation as incessant chatterboxes, I accepted, signaling that my territory welcomes workers. I am simply that kind, providing shelter to the weak. I accepted the request. As for the centaurs, even if their god appeared, I could crush them. The system confirmed the vassal status and the impending centaur invasion. I received 100 reputation for being the first player with a vassal race. 10,000 times amplification triggered, granting me 1 million reputation. Vassals have few rights. I can demand labor in combat. I decided 15 hours of work a day would suffice. The naive dryads celebrated their freedom from the centaurs, oblivious to their future. My veins throbbed at their talk of singing competitions. I ordered Yi Mingzhu to take them away. They'd be mining 25 hours a day soon. Yi Mingzhu, usually silent, looked overwhelmed by the talkative deer folk. I then recalled other potential alliances. The Dwarven Butcher King, a mythical grade powerhouse with elite berserker legions and advanced crystal-powered tech. Star Elves, the true indigenous people of the Lost Continent, were also powerful. The current elf empire is 80% Sun Elves, who were summoned from another plane. Various gods were also trying to offer me hidden quests, which I ignored. Stephanie is simply too weak. If I were the saint of a stronger god, they wouldn't be so desperate. Regardless, my massive reputation allows me to claim cities or titles in any human kingdom, far surpassing other players. I ignored the human empires, turned my gaze to my troops, and prepared to re-enter the Shadow Realm, where my forces receive massive combat buffs. With such a powerful buff active, I immediately led my troops southward to capitalize on the advantage. Since the Dark Goddess was now my permanent enemy, I intended to sabotage her plans. As I marched south, I encountered various foreign players. Most were from the Indian, Korean, and Japanese servers, having been pushed south of the portal by Dragon Kingdom players. Trapped by terrifying monsters and unable to retreat, these players were starving. I killed them without hesitation. As I ventured deeper, the players vanished, replaced by high-level monsters. Suddenly, a chilling sensation washed over me, and the system warned I had entered a highly dangerous area. Through the mist, I spotted a towering, ominous altar with black stone pillars reaching into the sky. After 20 minutes of approach, I encountered a massive army of robed figures. Using my scout spell, I identified them, the Church of Darkness. I was shocked to find tens of millions of believers, including over 10 million legendary Black Knights, durable, high-output units, and dark golems, specialized meat shields. Sensing a secret, I infiltrated the cathedral, finding 2 robed figures deep inside. Those otherworld lords are useless. They couldn't even take down one God-granted Earl, one sneered. Don't underestimate him. I heard Priest Joyce died in his territory, the other replied. Joyce? A veteran priest defeated? Regardless, we must hurry. If we secure this immortal artifact, the goddess will surely reward us. My eyes narrowed. I finally understood the situation. I had wondered how foreign players reached the portal through such dangerous territory. It was the Church of Darkness manipulating them, while the god of kobolds was merely a pawn of the Dark Goddess. The god of kobolds had no choice but to obey the goddess's commands. I quickly pieced it all together. I was intrigued by the mention of an immortal artifact. Even some minor deities lacked such treasures. Even Stephanie was weaker than Layla, who at least possessed an immortal-grade mask. Not wasting time, I ordered my troops to launch a full-scale assault on the 2 figures. Arrows and dragon breath rained down. Ding! You killed a target, gained 400 million shadow points via 10,000 times amplification. Ding! You killed a target, gained 400 million shadow points via 10,000 times amplification. Ding! Your level has increased to 100. Ding! You killed a priest. Your relationship is permanently hostile. No content. The 2 legendary bosses were obliterated before they could react. I was not surprised. With my current multipliers, failing to one-shot legendary bosses would be a failure. The kills maxed out the levels of my 1,000 arcane golems. Their stats reached terrifying heights. Suddenly, waves of black-robed believers swarmed my forces. Dark fireballs bombarded my troops, but the system repeatedly flashed, immune. The enemy priest stared in disbelief at the high-tier, diamond-equipped units being completely unaffected. Thanks to my buffs, my troops ignored all attacks except those from the Black Knights. I ignored the chaos, letting my heroes handle the slaughter while I collected loot. Ding! You triggered 10,000 times amplification and obtained loot. The loot from 2 legendary bosses was exceptional. One item description left me stunned. The system displayed a series of question marks. I checked my inventory to find a piece of ordinary-looking sand. Description: ordinary sand. Grade: unknown. Effect: accelerates repair progress by 0.5%. An item of unknown grade was unheard of. I had never heard of the Hourglass of Time in my previous life. I used the item immediately. Ding! Repair progress 100%. You have successfully repaired the Hourglass of Time. A soft, golden light descended. I caught the glowing object. It materialized into an exquisite, miniature hourglass. I inspected its attributes. Name: Hourglass of Time. Grade: unknown. Effect 1. Song of Time and Space. Accelerates building time flow by 1,000% for designated structures. Effect 2. Domain of Time. Pauses time for all enemies within 300,000 yards. Consumes 1,000 small divine power, 7-day cooldown. I was stunned. The stats were absurd. 10 times the time flow. That means I gain 11 days for everyone else's 1. This artifact was game-breaking. Whether accelerating recruitment, defense, or special buildings, it was an unparalleled power-up that could make anyone an instant powerhouse. For me, this was a massive boost. I lacked only time to accumulate power. With this, my development speed would increase exponentially. I realized why the Dark Goddess had dispatched 2 legendary-grade priests and millions of elites to the Shadow Realm. While these troops were negligible to the Church of Darkness, the Shadow Realm was dangerous. Even the Dark Goddess feared the Shadow Dragon, so she had snuck them in. She dared not send Crown Tier or Divine units, nor reveal mythical-grade priests, as their energy fluctuations would alert the Shadow Dragon. Countless fanatics swarmed toward me. The remaining dozen epic-grade priests realized that if I escaped, they were doomed, throwing them into a panic. Give it your all. The goddess has plotted for this artifact for millennia. He must not take it. Kill him. Anyone who retreats will be sacrificed. What are these units? They're immune to our high-level skills. Bring in the Black Knights. The Church of Darkness acted quickly. Within a minute, millions of Black Knights exuding evil energy arrived. Led by a legendary-grade Black Knight, shrouded in dark light, their arrival brought relief to the panicked priests. The Black Knight Legion was the Church's elite force, all max level and equipped with 4 legendary items each. This legion could dominate the main plane. The commander swung his blade, and the knights charged, turning into a sea of black streaks. A knight slammed his sword into a priestess. The knights were smart enough to avoid the tanky arcane golems. Yet, a -0 floated up. Everyone froze. The priest stared in disbelief, and the commander nearly fell from his horse. He rubbed his eyes. It was 0. They couldn't even break the defense of a mere priest. The knights' charge resulted in a flurry of zeros. The scene was bizarre as they scrambled to find a weak point. Despite the full-force charge of the warhorses, the priestesses in white robes didn't budge. I expected this. My current attack and defense bonuses were terrifying. Even Crown Tier units would struggle to break my defense. I ordered my troops to clear the field using AoE skills. The arcane golems and priests unleashed their full AoE potential. A single basic attack triggered dazzling lightning chains, instantly vaporizing swaths of Black Knights, leaving the priests stunned. They wondered if these were truly priests or archmages in disguise. System notifications flooded my ears. As I led my troops toward the exit, a soul-shaking tremor hit me. Warning, the Dark Goddess has learned of the repair and is descending in her true form. Evacuate immediately. The system's thunderous warnings made my eyes widen. The Dark Goddess herself? She was truly playing by her own rules. Deities rarely left their divine kingdoms. 2 voices, Stephanie and Layla, urged me to flee to their kingdoms, but a cold voice cut them off. Too late. Human, have you chosen your death? A girl of about 18, wrapped in pitch-black attire, materialized. Her eyes, black as the void, radiated terrifying pressure. I used my scout spell. Description: one of 2 gods born from the world's origin. Grade: Immortal. Level/stats. Skills: the fanatics prostrated themselves, and the Black Knight commander knelt. The system chimed again. Warning, you have received a debuff. All units' movement and attack speed reduced by 100%. World announcement: a powerful entity has descended upon the Shadow Realm. Players, evacuate immediately. Warning, due to the debuff. I took a deep breath. The overwhelming, ancient aura confirmed it was a true deity. I had seen true deities in my past life, but never one this powerful. Thanks to my willpower and Stephanie's influence, I resisted the pressure. The Dark Goddess sneered. 2 annoying little girls, I will settle this with you later. With a wave of her sleeve, the system announced that I had lost contact with the 3 deities. I blinked. She was truly terrifying. The goddess studied me with interest. Human, I can sense you aren't a pious paladin. I offer you one last chance. Pledge loyalty to me, and I will grant you power 100 times greater than the Church of Light. Otherwise, your soul will vanish. The system offered 1. 5th Priest of the Church of Darkness. 2. Marquis title. 3. Command of 300 billion Crown Tier units. 4. Class change to Supreme Black Mage, SS grade. 5. A free god-affiliated territory. I raised an eyebrow. My high reputation had clearly triggered this. The fifth priest was a position of immense power. The Marquis title carried significant privileges. The 300 billion units and the SS grade class were incredibly rare. It was a generous offer, but I remained unimpressed. I knew the Dark Goddess was synonymous with conspiracy and betrayal. I didn't trust a word she said. Furthermore, I was annoyed. Her arrogant assumption that I had no countermeasures infuriated me. I replied calmly, "The conditions are good, but I want to add one more." The Dark Goddess nodded. "Speak." I looked at her face, hidden by dark energy. "I hear no one has ever seen your true face in all these years. If you give me a few, revealing photos of yourself, I might consider joining." The prostrate priests and the kneeling commander froze in absolute shock. Their brains crashed. No one dared speak to the Dark Goddess like that. They turned pale, trembling with cold sweat. The Dark Goddess's wrath was indiscriminate. A single blow could annihilate them. Hearing my words, the Dark Goddess paused, stunned. No one had dared speak to her like that in ages. Her aura turned glacial. "It seems you have made your choice," she declared, manifesting a sphere of terrifying, pitch-black energy at her fingertips, ready to strike. Vivian stepped in front of me, while I acted decisively, activating my skill. Ding. Skill activated. Duration, 266 seconds. As the system chime faded, I gasped, ecstatic. Everything around me had frozen. This was a supreme artifact transcending immortal deities. Even gods could not escape its control. I stroked my chin, observing the motionless Dark Goddess. A frozen Dark Goddess, a rare opportunity. What to do? Time was short. I couldn't harm her, but I could act. Even with the Heart of Slaughter's true damage and my 30x attack stats, 5 minutes was insufficient. I couldn't kill her, so retreating was best. But I sneered. I wouldn't leave empty-handed. I approached the frozen goddess. Slap! I struck her face. Her head tilted, but my hand felt nothing. An invisible barrier protected her. As expected, I muttered, "Her divine power is too strong. My damage is too low." However, I smiled, opened the system camera, slapped her again, and click, I snapped a clear photo of the act. Satisfied, I ordered my heroines, beat her to death. Sylvia and Ina hesitated, stunned. This was the Dark Goddess. They had already prepared for resurrection. Time had stopped. Vivian acted first. She punched the Dark Goddess in the stomach, sending her flying like a sandbag. Vivian's damage was higher, yet the goddess's health bar remained unmoved. I continued the assault. Asterisk click. Click. Asterisk. Sylvia transformed into her dragon form, clawing at the goddess's face. I ordered my entire army to fire. After 3 minutes of concentrated attacks, her health remained full. Suddenly, a cracking sound echoed. Her mask was breaking. Realizing her divine power wasn't repairing it, I ordered everyone to focus fire on her face. 30 seconds later, the Dark Goddess was blasted into a deep crater. I peered into the pit. The mask of dark divine power had shattered completely. Revealed was a cold, flawless face. Her skin was perfect, her features breathtakingly beautiful. I paused, then waved my troops off. Further attacks were futile. She was one with the world's rules. I spent the remaining time taking photos. I wondered why she'd hidden such beauty for hundreds of thousands of years. Less than 30 seconds remained. I opened a portal to the Shadow Realm and fled with my troops. The golden light vanished, and time resumed. The Dark Goddess blinked, confused. Why was she in a crater? She felt a draft on her face. Shuddering, she manifested a new mask. "Night Demon," she shrieked, her voice echoing through the Shadow Realm. "You've angered me. Prepare for my wrath." I, safely back in my territory, slammed the portal shut. If she dared enter the main plane, other gods would hunt her down. If she sent an avatar, I'd handle her. Stephanie and Layla contacted me, asking what happened. I laughed. "I have something to show you." I invited their avatars to my territory and showed them the photos. The images showed the Dark Goddess being pummeled like a sandbag. The goddesses gasped, speechless. Is this the Dark Goddess? They couldn't deny it. The divine energy in the photos was unmistakable. Such power couldn't be faked. The leader of the evil faction, treated like a punching bag? I sneered, "Send these out. Tell the gods there's more. Sell them for small, non-elemental divine power crystals. 3 for 1, 10 for 3. The more they buy, the better the content gets. The two goddesses were stunned. It was a brilliant idea. The dark goddess had countless enemies, and such scandalous photos would surely sell. Needing divine power, they immediately mass-messaged the gods. I sneered. The divine power was secondary. I wanted to ruin the dark goddess's reputation. Stephanie and Layla distributed the photos. Bored gods, having lived for millennia, opened them with indifference, only to have their eyes widen in shock. Is that the dark goddess? Ha! The dark goddess beaten by a human? That slap was satisfying. Are there more? The photos instantly ignited the divine community. The dark goddess was notoriously ruthless, having slaughtered believers and looted countless divine kingdoms. My photos shocked everyone. Despite her high divine power level, she had been humiliated by a human. 3 divine power crystals for a photo? Cheap. I'll take it. Gods clamored for more, even suggesting group buys. Layla and Stephanie warned them. These are for private viewing only. Leak them, and we'll tell everyone you possess her explicit photos. The gods hesitated, realizing the dark goddess would go insane if such rumors spread. Driven by curiosity, the god of the wild made the first purchase. He was powerful enough to openly display his divine kingdom's location, fearing no one. He didn't fear the dark goddess. My inventory was suddenly flooded with pure divine power crystals. I required the gods to purify the crystals themselves to avoid any tracking marks. The god of the wild laughed, his voice echoing through the cosmos as he viewed the photos. That slap was great. Wait, whose sword is that on her forehead? Ha! Who is so devious as to smack her backside? I coughed awkwardly, hoping the god of the wild would keep quiet about that detail. The mention of the dark goddess being spanked drove the other gods into a frenzy of curiosity. Buy it. As long as no one talks, she'll never know. My system notifications pinged incessantly as sales skyrocketed. I was surprised. Over 50 gods had purchased the photos. The dark goddess had many enemies. I gained over 30,000 divine power crystals and smiled coldly, anticipating her rage. In the dark garden, the dark goddess sat on her throne, exhausted. Her divine kingdom was shrouded in terrifying energy. The hourglass of time was an artifact she had spent millennia planning to restore. She had scoured millions of planes, yet had only repaired 20%. To have it stolen and to be beaten by a human filled her eyes with murderous intent. A flower-like subordinate trembling reported that rumors of her humiliation, specifically being spanked, were spreading. The dark goddess erupted in black flames, and I received a flurry of notifications. Over a dozen gods had declared war on me. These were mostly her subordinates or members of the evil faction. War was inevitable anyway. This only improved my standing with the good faction. I turned to farming, using my buffs to accelerate production tenfold. My legendary and crown tier unit production rates reached staggering daily figures. These numbers were enough to make any other player despair. I would complete my tier 3 Lord quest soon. I then deployed a curse targeting the dark goddess. A ripple of ominous energy spread outward. The system confirmed the curse. The dark goddess's faith value would drop by 90% until the source was destroyed. I laughed. She was already furious enough. I fortified my territory with 100,000 frost towers and legendary grade cannons, creating an impenetrable defense. Even a mythical grade boss would be vaporized. I left the remaining administrative tasks to Yi Mingzhu. Yi Mingzhu handled territory expansion, resource gathering, and subjugating local clans, while Taiwanasi worked in the shadows. I checked the time. The Shadow Realm event was ending. With less than an hour left, the event had lasted 3 days. Dragon Kingdom players were thriving, having gained massive experience and event points. Conversely, Eagle Kingdom players were starving because I had cut off their access to the main plane. Eve, in Eden, faced a crisis as her troops began to starve in desert. Her morale plummeted as the system alerts continued. Her elite Tier 8 troops were dying of hunger. It was a humiliating end, and then the system sounded again. Ding! Your A-grade hero's loyalty is too low. They are preparing to consume your troops. If you refuse, they will rebel. Eve's face twisted in fury. Night Demon. Across the world, players struggled to find food, their troops starving, deserting, or mutinying. Suddenly, the system announced the end of the large-scale event. All players were forcibly ejected from the Shadow Realm. Players returned to their territories, only to realize their troops and heroes were gone forever. My hero is permanently gone. The Hero Hall can't resurrect them. Players demanded compensation from the official game support, distraught that their B-grade heroes had vanished. Hero recruitment scrolls were not available in the trading house. Such scrolls were extremely rare, typically only awarded upon completing hidden quests. Most players relied on their initial system-gifted scrolls. Now, they were left hero-less, forced to rely on weak D-grade recruits from the Hero Hall. The players were pale with dread. Heroes were essential to the game. Without them, the game was effectively over. I, however, ignored their plight. A day passed. Dragon Kingdom players, bolstered by buffs, cleared secret realms and shared guides. While they thrived and recruited Tier 3 units, players from other nations could only watch and envy. My territory flourished. With 10 times the skill growth rate, my unit's skills were maxed out. Ina successfully upgraded all magic technology projects to the maximum level. Magic damage increased by 300%, and magic resistance reached 80%. The results left me stunned. I marveled at the Arcane Empire's profound mastery over magic, having once shattered countless gods. I proceeded to recruit more units. My forces now totaled 64,000 Flame Sharpshooters, 64,000 Sky Knights, 20,000 Frost Dragons, 8,680 Holy Radiance Priests, 52,000 Shadow Phantom Assassins, and 12,000 Arcane Golems. Ding! Your quest is complete. Ding! Due to your high reputation, the nation has tacitly accepted your territorial expansion. Ding! Due to your high reputation, the nation has tacitly accepted your territorial expansion. Ding! World announcement. Player has become a Tier 3 Lord. Reward: 500,000 gold, 5,000 reputation. Ding! 10,000 times amplification triggered, 5 billion gold, 50 million reputation. I recruited another batch of Holy Radiance priests from the City of Light. Notably, Cecilia personally delivered them. As my reputation grew and the evil faction declared war on me, the Church of Light began funneling resources my way. My territory had become a focal point for the two major powers. Commander Jack and the Archbishop sensed the shifting, ominous atmosphere. With the portal open, Cecilia snuck over. My total combat population reached 220,680. I tasked the Dark Elves with prayer at the Arcane Altar and the Forest Dryads with mining. The system announced that Vivian's research had reached level 10, granting 3 billion skill experience points. Vivian emerged, her research complete, maximizing all unit skills. With damage coefficients significantly boosted, I began upgrading my territory. Ding! Consumed resources to reach level 31. Ding! Consumed resources to reach level 32. Ding! Ding! Consumed resources to reach level 40. Ding! Level cap reached. Complete the quest to unlock further levels. My territory population cap hit 2.44 million. While this was the endgame for normal players, risking war with the empires, it was merely a milestone for me. My daily territorial growth reached 25,000 grids. This growth rate exceeded the total area of most players' territories. I reviewed the Tier 4 Lord quest. Become a small city in the Lost Continent. Warning: empires will not tolerate a stranger owning a mid-sized city. Requirements: 2 million plus mid-tier units, 1 million plus high-tier, 500,000 plus legendary units. Additional requirements: 1 million plus territory scale, 10 million plus defense rating, 50,000 plus reputation. Reward: unlock territory level cap. Warning: completion triggers an imperial ultimatum and war. I nodded. The requirements were manageable, save for the 500,000 legendary units. Legendary units were rare, and such a force would be considered overwhelming even years later. Yet, for me, it would take only 4 days of growth. I ignored the warnings about the 7 empires. I welcomed their challenge. The system had warned me at Tier 3, but the empires had done nothing. If they dared to attack, they would be crushed. I briefly reviewed the new buildings unlocked by the upgrade. I found them redundant. With the Arcane Empire's database, I already possessed superior royal architecture. My forging table and alchemy table were already top tier, and I had no shortage of legendary potions. The Royal Trading House now enabled global auctions and trade. I had no need for money, but the capability was immense. My single day of development equaled 10 days for others. Vivian approached, noting the territory's growing strength. I patted her head, thanking her for her hard work. Vivian leaned into my touch, clearly enjoying the moment. I checked the system time. I muttered that the currency exchange system and leaderboards were about to launch. The recharge system would trigger a massive power surge for major guilds and factions. The golden age for solo players was ending. Capital would soon allow guilds to monopolize game resources. Many mocked me, believing my era was over, as individual strength paled against massive organizations. I would only laugh at such notions. I no longer viewed them as rivals. At noon, the system roared to life. A world announcement declared the currency exchange system was opening. A national announcement clarified the system was backed by Dragon Kingdom banks, with an initial rate of 1 gold to 2 dragon coins. A new currency exchange button appeared on every player's interface. The announcements continued. A player received silver grade status for a 150 billion gold deposit, granting a permanent 20% fee reduction. Another received gold grade status for 200 billion gold, granting a 30% fee reduction. A third player also hit the 220 billion gold mark for gold grade status. The initial transaction fee was 12%. Higher deposits unlocked membership tiers to reduce these fees. I remained uninterested. I had more than enough wealth. National announcements triggered for every deposit over 100 billion gold. Players were stunned by the massive spending, noting Warsoul's 300 billion dragon coin injection. Observers noted this was merely Warsoul testing the waters. Players were shocked by the Rose Guild and Nanyan Xiao Shui's massive spending. Major guilds flooded the market to gain dominance, while casuals sold gold for pocket money. Suddenly, a strange announcement appeared. A national announcement stated a player had lost 250 billion gold due to an accident. Players realized it was Aoshi Wushuang and erupted in laughter. Losing 250 billion gold, 500 billion dragon coins, was a devastating blow even for the Aoshi Guild. A former Aoshi member revealed that Aoshi Wushuang was notoriously unlucky. Rumors confirmed his territory was plagued by constant monster sieges, earthquakes, and meteor strikes. He couldn't recruit troops, and any he acquired defected, forcing him to hunt for troops with max loyalty. With guilds flush with cash, the cost of global broadcasts plummeted. The national channel was flooded with messages. The Ziqi Guild offered recruitment incentives. A City B studio recruited workers with benefits. The Rujia Sueha Guild posted recruitment details. The Rose Guild actively recruited female players. Nanyan Xiao Shui messaged me, teasingly offering to support me financially. I ignored her offer, noting it was insufficient for my daily costs, and asked if she had cleared the secret realm. She stammered, complaining that I was stingy with potions. I replied that she had wasted the ones I gave her. She blushed, admitting she had used my legendary grade potions too early, causing her to fail the boss fight. I refused to provide more, viewing her mistake as inexcusable. Nanyan Xiao Shui changed the subject, asking when they would form a guild. I realized I had overlooked the guild token. Tokens dropped from gold grade bosses or higher, with higher tiers increasing the drop rate. I promised it would be soon. Zi Qiangwei then called, panicked, asking what I had done to Aoshi Wushuang. She revealed Aoshi Wushuang had placed a 100 billion dragon coin bounty on my real identity. She worried my identity might be exposed, but I remained calm, knowing I had been careful. Only Stephanie and Layla knew my secrets, and Aoshi Wushuang couldn't reach them. I admitted I had simply used 2 skills on him. After I shared the skill effects, Zi Qiangwei fell silent for minutes before calling me ruthless. I shrugged. I saw no reason to be kind to enemies. Zi Qiangwei shivered in the game world. Skills like minus 99,999 luck and minus 99% population/morale were essentially a death sentence. She finally understood why Aoshi Wushuang was rumored to be cursed. She warned me to stay hidden in reality. She hung up. Meanwhile, in a skyscraper, Aoshi Wushuang stared at his screen in fury, his 500 billion dragon coins gone. Terrified subordinates stood by as he slammed the table, demanding to know what had happened. An office worker trembled as she reported to Aoshi Wushuang. "Boss, the officials claim this is an autonomous AI result and cannot be investigated." Aoshi Wushuang's face darkened, and he cut her off with a roar. "Useless. You're all useless." As he spoke, his chair shattered, sending him crashing to the floor. The staff stared in shock. They wondered if his bad luck had bled into reality. Aoshi Wushuang struggled to his feet. With a murderous glare, he snarled, "Have you found Night Demon's real identity?" The worker adjusted her glasses, whispering, "He's too careful. We've ruled out all major cash-out users." Silence filled the room until someone spoke up. "Boss, I have an idea." Aoshi Wushuang turned to him. "We can't find Night Demon, but Yi Mingzhu has a special connection to him. Let's target her." Aoshi Wushuang brightened. Rumors of their relationship were trending, and photos of her frequenting my territory were proof enough. His mood finally lifted. "Right, if I can't touch him, I'll take it out on his woman," he said. "Can you find her stats?" The subordinate stammered, I can't." Aoshi Wushuang slammed the table, cursing his incompetence. The staff cowered. Yi Mingzhu was a legendary solo player whose identity had never been exposed. It was impossible. The system's evolution signaled a deeper fusion with reality. Future updates would bring leaderboards, tournaments, and achievement systems. I considered visiting the real world to gauge my fusion progress, given my overwhelming in-game strength. I checked on Yi Mingzhu's progress. Many players had already completed their second-tier Lord quests. Yi Mingzhu was nearing her third-tier quest completion. I planned to head to the Kent Kingdom to visit the Temple of Moonlight, participate in the legendary grade unit trial, and resolve the civil war, especially since Layla's situation was worsening. I pulled out a mysterious scroll. I crushed the scroll to trigger a monster siege. A wave pulsed through me, followed by a system roar. Ding! You used the scroll. 10,000 times amplification triggered. Siege difficulty increased 10,000 times. World announcement. A Dragon Kingdom player has triggered the highest difficulty monster siege, initiating a large-scale event. The event begins in 3 hours. Prepare yourselves. The coalition of 69 evil deities, including the Dark Goddess, Goddess of Misfortune, and Demon King Baldan, will attack all neutral and good factions. Warning, difficulty is extreme. Abandoning territories for main cities is advised. Players were stunned. Another event. Night Demon is insane. Highest difficulty. Should we flee to the main city? Abandon the territory? No way. The system is just scaring us. It can't be that hard this early. Players were excited, having just finished the Shadow Realm event. I, however, was shocked that a mythical grade scroll triggered a world event. I realized the scale of the event was unprecedented. I frowned as I read the notification. The difficulty would be terrifying. The attacking forces were all deities who held a grudge against me. I concluded that no player could defend a second-tier territory against this. I messaged Yi Mingzhu to return immediately and posted a warning on the national channel. Night Demon, this event is too hard. I suggest retreating to main cities to rebuild later, or you will lose everything. The channel erupted. Is it really that hard? I won't abandon my land. Night Demon has never been wrong, but I'm not giving up. Players were reluctant to abandon their hard-earned progress. Large guilds, having invested heavily, refused to listen. I scoffed at their greed. Nanyan Xiaoshui, however, decided to trust me and moved her troops toward my territory, prioritizing her survival over her massive investment. She knew preserving her 200,000 troops was worth more than money. Zi Qiangwei was hesitant, as her guild was poor and the 200 billion gold was her entire savings. The Rose Guild had no major investors. I reassured her, trust me, saving your strength is the most profitable move. If you are blinded by 200 billion gold, it would be disappointing. Zi Qiangwei froze. It was a fortune, but my calm tone steadied her. Fine, I'll trust you again, she decided. Half an hour later, Yi Mingzhu returned, and I sealed the gates. I decided to bolster my defenses using my surplus crystals. I traded Godhead fragments with Cindy for materials, and installed 900,000 arcane energy cannons, covering every inch of my walls. My defense now surpassed even the City of Light. Ding. Count. Please report to the Church of Light's War Room for a high-level meeting. Ding. P.S. The previous chapter title was corrected. My apologies for the error. A monster siege of this scale is unprecedented in a millennium. The evil faction is usually disorganized, and the good faction was caught off guard by the Dark Goddess's sudden aggression. Regardless of why she went rogue, the Church of Light must respond. With my territory's defenses set, I entered the portal without hesitation. The City of Light remained radiant and serene, bustling with players. I headed straight for the inner temple. Cecilia was absent, leaving players seeking item exchanges in a panic. Two paladins bowed respectfully to me, their eyes filled with admiration. My fame across the lost continent is now legendary. Entering the meeting room, I found the commanders gathered, along with Cecilia and two bishops. Upon seeing the bishops, my eyes narrowed. These two were notorious figures from my memories of the Dark Goddess's future siege on the City of Light. Back then, they were reckless brawlers who charged into enemy formations, staff in hand. Both are mythical-grade priests who function as powerful melee mages. It is said Bishop Alander once strangled a legendary demon with his own belt when out of mana. Cecilia smiled and beckoned me to sit beside her. I took my seat. Commander Jack nodded and announced that everyone was present. Jack deferred the meeting's leadership to the two bishops. Alander asked Commander Maddie for a report on the City of Light's defenses. Maddie stood up to report. He detailed that 3.3685 billion paladins were converging on the city, with 2.8 billion being high-tier units. Repairs on the southern wall were underway and would take 2 hours. The city has 7,230 defensive towers, including 800 legendary and 1,500 epic grade, all fully operational. Paladins are currently deploying 320,000 top-tier traps and 8 million high-tier traps around the city. I was stunned by the sheer scale. The City of Light's military power is terrifying, far surpassing any other temple. Most paladins were ordered to defend their nearest major cities. Less than 1 in 10,000 are returning to the City of Light. The defensive infrastructure is also vastly superior to any NPC empire's capital. Though still inferior to my own territory, the others were reassured by the report. Bishop Maev then addressed the real issue. Refugees from 120 western villages, 300 northern villages, and 26 eastern towns are seeking sanctuary. The city is at capacity, and with the church's main force fighting the undead in the east, they are desperate for solutions. The main forces are too far away to intervene. I realized what they wanted. Maev turned to me. Count Yifan, we need you to take in some refugees. All eyes turned to me, some commanders looking skeptical. Could a lord of less than 7 days handle this massive siege? I feigned humility, claiming my Tier 3, level 40 territory was too weak to help. Jack and the bishops twitched at the lie, knowing my territory possessed epic walls and countless legendary defenses. Cecilia, annoyed by my modesty, prepared to speak up. I grabbed her hand under the table and scratched her palm. I couldn't let her ruin my chance to extort the church. Cecilia blushed. Jack and the bishops wondered about the nature of the saintess's relationship with the count. Jack asked what support the church could provide to make it possible. My eyes lit up. I claimed my troops were strong but lacked healing units. I requested Holy Radiance priests. The bishops were taken aback. Jack asked how many, noting Cecilia had already recruited a batch for me. Everyone knew about the 5,000 priests she had previously provided. I calmly replied, 2 million. The room fell into a deathly silence. Cecilia intervened, saying they didn't have that many. She offered 500,000 instead. The bishops felt like vomiting blood. They regretted letting the saintess attend the meeting. I, impressed by Cecilia's negotiation, feigned reluctance and accepted the 500,000, acting as if it were a meager amount. The commanders were furious at my audacity, as 500,000 priests would drain their reserves. With the offer made, Jack and the bishops were trapped by their own words. Commander Jack sighed. Very well, Count Night Demon. I hope you treat these 500,000 priests well. The system chimed. 500,000 priests have joined your territory. I nodded. These priests could heal 10 times their number. I asked about the refugees, and Jack estimated at least 2 billion. I realized major cities were overwhelmed as smaller towns fell. I accepted the SSS rank quest triggered by the situation. The quest required me to provide food for the refugees, who would in turn participate in the city's defense. I opened my quest log to review the details. The quest involved assisting with the massive monster siege. In return, Jack would provide 50,000 Holy Radiance priests to support my territory. It was a unique hidden quest with a difficulty of 0, offering gold, contribution points, and reputation as rewards. I was stunned by the 0 difficulty rating, as I wasn't even required to guarantee the refugees' safety. In this game, there are no civilians. All refugees are combat units. I only needed to provide food, bearing no responsibility for their survival. They were essentially free labor. While most were low-level fodder, I could use them as cannon fodder if I chose. Gaining 500,000 priests for the mere cost of food was an incredible bargain. Suddenly, a commander spoke up. He squinted at me, questioning if the Count truly had the capability to defend his territory. The room fell silent as others echoed his skepticism toward a lord of only 7 days. Cecilia tried to intervene, but I stopped her. I coolly replied that while my territory was only level 40 with limited troops, I had other assets. I boasted of 100,000 legendary defense towers, 1 million special defense facilities, and hundreds of millions of high-level magic traps. My calm tone sent shivers down the spines of everyone present. The sheer energy required to power such a massive defense left the room in stunned silence. They couldn't deny the truth of my claim, and the skeptical commander hung his head in shame. I, uninterested in the mundane defense meeting, stood up and left. The defense discussion concluded shortly after. A commander whispered to Jack, questioning if I was a truly devout believer. The room buzzed with suspicion. My rapid rise and fame had unsettled many. They cited his slaughter of other players as unbefitting a paladin. Others pointed to his possession of evil equipment linked to dark gods. They also questioned his mysterious trips to the Underdark. Cecilia grew indignant. She defended me, insisting I was not an evil person. Though young, as the saintess, she was no fool. She knew I had secrets from her. She sensed I wasn't good, but I certainly wasn't evil. Jack halted the debate. He declared that as long as I served the cause of light, my future would be left to the God of Light to judge. I had already returned to my territory. I didn't care about the church's opinions, knowing they lacked evidence to act against me. As I checked my territory, waves of refugees poured through the portal, numbering in the millions. I was stunned to see Crown-tier Sun Elf Royal Guards among the refugees. I approached the portal to investigate the unusual unit. They wore exquisite golden armor and possessed the distinct features of elves. They were armed with ornate spears and golden shields. They resembled dark elves, but were male with fair skin. They were sun elves from the Forest of Elves. The formation parted, revealing a slender, beautiful figure. She was a stunning elven maiden of perfect grace. I used my scout spell. She was a mythical grade royal from the Forest of Elves, a legendary guardian for thousands of years. Her stats were hidden behind question marks. I recognized her, Lilia, daughter of the Elven King and a future Elven Empress. Lilia greeted me, her beauty ethereal and flawless. She was unlike any hero I had ever seen. I asked why she was there, and she replied, to seek refuge. I was incredulous. A mythical-grade powerhouse with millions of Crown-tier troops seeking refuge at a Tier 3 Lord's territory? When I questioned her, she insisted it was true. I shrugged and ordered them to follow my commands and find a place to wait. Lilia's expression stiffened. The portal was only 50 meters away, an easy escape. She quickly masked her discomfort with a charming smile, calling me an interesting count. I remained indifferent. I disliked the Elven Empire for their arrogance and isolationism. Even after the world fusion, they remained aloof. Lilia sensed my impatience. Dropping the smile, she asked seriously, "Are you interested in becoming my consort, Count Knight Demon?" The territory fell silent. Stunned, I asked, "What did you say?" Lilia stared into my eyes, repeating that if I agreed, the entire Elven Empire would be mine. The system prompt chimed. Ding. Princess Lilia invites you to join the Elven Empire and marry her, promising you the throne. Do you accept? I confirmed I hadn't misheard. Even I was bewildered. A legendary princess proposing? I felt a flicker of interest. The Elven Empire had endured for tens of thousands of years. Unlike human kingdoms, the Elven Empire had remained singular throughout recorded history. Their true strength was unknown, and their gods were uniquely unified. Controlling them would be a massive leap in power, potentially leading to godhood. However, I quickly dismissed the idea. It would make me a mere matrilocal son-in-law. I would also be beholden to countless elven gods, with the Elven King serving as little more than a puppet. Furthermore, Vivian was already glaring at Lilia with murderous intent. I shook my head. My apologies, princess, I must refuse. As expected, Lilia sighed softly, whispering, "Is the offer not enough?" Her golden eyes shimmered as she promised they would both become gods and their descendants would rule the empire forever. I remained silent. I didn't doubt her sincerity, but it was absurd for an ancient princess to debase herself this way. I refused again, citing my promise to Vivian to retire to the Shadow Realm once we reached the world's peak. Lilia looked at Vivian and sighed, her eyes dimming. "Then," she brightened, "then can I join you?" I was stunned. Was she asking to join my crystal palace? I couldn't fathom her motives. I asked if she had run away from home. Lilia denied it, annoyed. I, knowing she was thousands of years old, was confused by her behavior. Lilia replied, "This is for the Elven Empire, and for myself, Lord." She offered no further explanation, only a flawless, beautiful smile. I accepted the free labor of her 3 million crown tier units. I directed them to the southern wall. When Ina saw the elves, I offered to drive them away, but Ina smiled and shook her head, choosing peace. The goddess teaches us to live in peace with all races. If the elves don't reject us, we are happy to be friends. I coughed awkwardly, realizing I had forgotten the teachings of Stephanie, whose saint I nominally was. Half an hour later, all refugees were settled behind the southern wall, guarded by Lilia and her troops. I wasn't worried. My million-plus legendary defense facilities, boosted by time dilation, were more than enough to crush any threat. Zi Qiangwei and Nanyan Xiaoshui arrived with their troops via the portal. I sent the Rose members to a corner of the territory. Suddenly, I felt intense, hostile pressure as the system activated. Ding! The god of destruction blesses the siege troops. Ding! The goddess of darkness blesses the siege troops. Ding! The goddess of misfortune blesses the siege troops. Hundreds of system prompts followed as the evil faction gods showered the siege troops with buffs. The goddess of darkness's buff was the strongest, increasing attack and defense by 500%. The siege troops' attributes reached terrifying levels. Before I could process it, I felt a wave of mysterious energy. The system chimed again. Ding! The goddess of luck blesses you. 10,000 times amplification triggered. Ding! The god of light blesses you. 10,000 times amplification triggered. Ding! The goddess of dawn blesses you. 10,000 times amplification triggered. Ding! The god of war blesses you. 10,000 times amplification triggered. Hundreds more prompts followed as my territory was enveloped in divine power. I realized this siege was a major power play. The goddess of darkness had rallied the evil faction, and the good faction had responded in kind. It was a war between gods. I opened my skill panel to review the buffs. While some were minor, the overall quality was immense. I gasped. Under the 10,000 times amplification, every single buff had become terrifyingly powerful. Even the weakest good faction gods provide a 10% buff, which, when amplified, reaches 1,000%. I was stunned to find 225 gods had bestowed blessings, each granting a 1,000% boost. This meant all my units and buildings received a staggering 2,250-fold increase in attack and defense. Even I was left speechless. After a few minutes, I took a deep breath and muttered, "Dark Goddess, you better hold on." The system prompt sounded again. Ding! The goddess of moonlight has blessed you. You triggered 10,000 times amplification and gained a buff. Description: blessing from the goddess of moonlight. Effect: the area within 30 million yards of the territory is fixed in nighttime. Note: this buff expires after the monster siege. Sunlight vanished from my territory, replaced by cool, watery moonlight. This buff was intriguing. While others might find it strange, as many monsters hide in the dark, I realized the goddess of moonlight knew about my dark environment bonuses. I grew wary. Her insight felt abnormal. Stephanie's voice echoed in my soul. Do you need me to cast a blessing? Despite their closeness, I had never used her divine arts. I smiled and shook my head. No, with these buffs, I could beat the dark goddess herself. Just conserve your strength. Stephanie replied. Understood. I've recovered well. Ina can use my arts now. I then reached out to Layla. Layla, you there? How about a blessing? Layla's young voice snapped back. I'm nearly fading away, and you still want to drain my power? I rolled my eyes, but the system chimed. Ding. The goddess of phantoms has blessed you. You triggered 10,000 times amplification and gained a buff. I checked my skill bar. Description: Blessing from the goddess of phantoms. Effect: Within 300,000 yards. All enemies have minus 100% evasion and cannot turn invisible. Note: Buff expires after the siege. This was quite useful. Layla must have exhausted herself to provide this. I whispered, Thank you, Layla. Deep in the divine kingdom, Layla curled up on her throne, thinking, Don't disappoint me, ye fan. I've bet everything on you. Hours passed, and the system announced the start of the monster siege. The event uses a point system. Killing enemies grants points, and rewards can be redeemed if the territory survives. If the territory is destroyed, all resources vanish, but the Lord's Hall will reset to level 1 after the event. The event began. Players stood confidently on their walls, but the reality was grim. Many in the Dragon Kingdom hoped for a breakthrough. Dark portals appeared everywhere, spawning Tier 6 abyssal demon dogs. Players' attacks dealt 0 damage. Panic ensued as territories were wiped out within seconds. The system logs were flooded with destruction notifications. Every territory was swarmed. The demon dogs surrounded the lands completely. Worse, players were trapped in a death loop, respawning on the ruins only to die again until their levels were wiped. This is brutal. Millions of monsters per territory. If I hadn't listened to Night Demon, I'd be finished. At least our units are safe. We'll be ahead once this ends. Night Demon is the GOAT. Meanwhile, portals appeared around my territory, unleashing a massive army of hellhounds. These beasts had goat-like horns and glowing, dark maws. Nan Yin Xiao Shui and Zi Qiangwei watched in shock, realizing they would have suffered heavy losses even if they survived. I knew these were merely cannon fodder in the late game, but a nightmare for players now. They possessed high physical and magical resistance. They could also fire energy blasts, catching many off guard. Unlike the others, my territory was buffed enough to challenge Crown Tier units. I snapped my fingers. Frost towers fired blue energy, and arcane energy cannons began to charge. Boom! Ding! You killed *1000. Gained 60 EXP and 6 activity points. Ding! You killed *1000. Gained 60 EXP and 6 activity points. Ding! You triggered 10,000 times amplification. Gained 600,000 EXP and 60,000 activity points. Ding! Your EXP is full. Please complete your trial quest. Countless kill notifications flashed as demon dogs collapsed instantly, unable to step beyond the portal. Explosions erupted at the portal's threshold, the blinding light engulfing the gateway itself. I was unsurprised, though I noted my activity points had triggered 10,000 times amplification. This was a massive world event, yet with no survivors left to access the shop, it had effectively become my private store. With my permission, members of the Rose Guild activated their live streams. Viewers were stunned. Too strong. Night Demon is insane. Spawn camping the portal. What are those towers? I want them. Dream on. Those are at least diamond grade. Impossible. A Korean player has diamond towers, and they don't one-shot like that. Viewers spotted Nan Yin Xiao Shui and Zi Qiangwei in my territory. The women watched in disbelief as the towers unleashed high-frequency, high-damage AoE attacks with terrifying slowing effects, leaving the demon dogs frozen in death. So this is Night Demon's true power? No wonder Aoshi Wushuang failed. Guild members apologized to Zi Qiangwei for doubting her decision to abandon their own territory. She silenced their gossip with a glare. On the southern wall, an elf observed the tech-heavy cannons. Arcane Empire cannons? She recognized the weaponry from history. 1 million of them. The energy required is astronomical. Night Demon. Even max-level Tier 6 demon dogs were obliterated by the legendary grade towers. As the system notifications ceased, the demon dogs lay in heaps. A chilling message appeared for all players. Out of nearly 10 billion people on Blue Star, 80% had entered the game. Only 9 survivors remained. The difficulty was absurd for a 7-day-old server. I was slightly surprised. I doubted the remaining players would survive the next wave. The system announced the second wave: Abyss Demons, Tier 7, and Gargoyles, Tier 8. Gargoyles possessed an invincibility skill when health dropped below 10%. The skill was useless against my firepower. As the gargoyles screeched, the arcane energy cannons opened fire, lighting up the night. System: Kill X1000, EXP 800.8. System: Kill X1000, EXP 800.8. System: 10,000 times amplification triggered, EXP 8M.8W. System: The second wave was pulverized before leaving the portal. 5 minutes later, the portal went silent. The player count dropped to 1. Only 10 minutes in, and everyone else is wiped out. Night Demon is fine. Is the game stealing our money? I regret not listening to Night Demon. Everything is gone. Most Dragon Kingdom players who ignored my advice had lost everything. Those who listened, like the Rose Guild, were now thriving. Zi Xiangwei stared at me, wondering how many secrets I held. I remained calm. My defense was impenetrable unless they deployed massive numbers of Crown Tier units. However, the coalition of evil gods was too suspicious of one another to coordinate effectively. They would only deploy limited legendary units. 3 hours later, the 90th wave ended. The area was flooded with gore. The poison cult's Tier 10 undead abominations lay in pieces. Global players were numb, calling me a cheater as I continued to spawn camp every wave. In a hidden subplane, the agents of various gods panicked. Max-level legendary units are failing. Do we need Crown Tier? These must be epic or legendary towers. How do we fight this? This secret location housed the high priests of the Dark Goddess, Goddess of Poison, God of Kobolds, Demon King, and Vampire Matriarch. They were the architects of the siege. Despite their rivalries, they had united for this event. They were shocked by the strength of a 7-day-old territory. The sheer number of legendary defensive structures was blinding. Beyond how I obtained them, the magical energy required to power them all was beyond their comprehension. The invaders were stunned that a human territory, only 7 days into the lost continent, possessed such overwhelming strength. They were completely at a loss. They could only seethe in impotent rage. Impossible. Nearly 200 deities have bestowed their blessings. Our troops are invincible. Even the City of Light should have fallen. What kind of defensive structures are these? In a corner of the void, several black-robed figures sneered. A bunch of ignoramuses. Those are clearly legendary grade frost towers and arcane energy cannons. Useless fools. For the goddess's glory, prepare to execute the dark judgment. The black-robed figures turned solemn, their eyes burning with fanaticism. In the territory, I frowned. The portal kept spinning, but no monsters emerged. What were they planning? The players were equally confused. Are they afraid? That shouldn't be. Doesn't the system say the siege continues until the territory is destroyed? Haha. Is Night Demon so strong he scared the system? Can this end already? My territory is swarming with monsters. I die the moment I respawn. As players debated, a deep, eerie black energy suddenly shrouded my territory. The color was unnaturally dark. Ding. Warning. Dark Priest William is executing dark judgment. The system's thunderous alerts echoed in my ears. My eyes narrowed. Dark judgment? I hadn't expected the Dark Goddess to resort to her ultimate move so quickly. Dark judgment is the Church of Darkness's strongest offensive divine art, requiring 30 high-level priests, legendary bosses, to cast. It is a massive AoE attack with at least 100 billion damage. Any stronger, and it would violate the Creator God's limits for the main plane. A giant black droplet of energy began to form in the sky, ready to descend. I cast a scout spell. Description: a dark judgment formed by 30 high-level priests, containing the Dark Goddess's power, devastating upon release. Level: Max. Progress, 9%. Damage, at least 500 billion. Range, 30,000 yards. Soon, Rose players shared this info on the public channel. Viewers gasped. What kind of damage is that? How many zeros are there? 500 billion damage. It's an AoE. Night Demon is finished. I bet he can't withstand this. Haha. Night Demon is finally done for. How could a Dragon Kingdom player be this strong? Great Dark Goddess, if you destroy his territory, I will be your most devout believer. Players everywhere concluded I was doomed. The 30,000-yard range covered my entire territory, and 500 billion damage was incomprehensible. That was only the minimum. The final damage would likely be far higher. Even the watching deities were shocked. A full-power Dark Judgment. Is the Dark Goddess insane? When was the last time she used this? Thousands of years ago. Yes, and it severely wounded 3 deities back then. A pity. Night Demon is talented, but he will fall today. This territory is lost. Let's focus on defending the City of Light instead. No one believed I could survive. A full-power Dark Judgment could turn an empire's capital into dust. They didn't even consider helping me, already planning their own retreats. I, however, saw the stats and felt unimpressed. Is that it? The damage was still within the main plane's tolerance. I remained still. Interrupting the spell required killing the priests or wounding the goddess, both impossible as the priests were hidden behind the portal in a trap. Players urged me to act, assuming I had given up, while Zi Qiangwei and Nan Yin Xiaoshui watched me, sensing I had a plan. Lilia watched me closely, holding a mysterious, glowing sapling. Lilia gripped the rotating sapling tightly. Time passed, and I tapped my fingers in boredom. Can you hurry up? The black energy grew denser. 50%, 70%, 99%. After 10 minutes, the progress bar neared completion. The pressure felt like the apocalypse. Suddenly, the system announced the energy had gathered. The black energy poured down like a flood. Everyone held their breath, but instead of destruction, a brilliant blue frost barrier appeared over my territory. The two energies collided. Boom! The roar was deafening. Cracks appeared in the surrounding space. The space slowly healed itself. Everyone was stunned. The space had actually torn. Tearing space usually required trillions in damage. As the collision ended, the blue barrier remained intact. My territory was unscathed. Inside the portal, the black-robed figures were horrified. How? The goddess's power was blocked. I looked at the portal calmly, holding the immortal artifact, Dragon Soul. With hundreds of trillions of frost energy extracted, defending against this was trivial. The players were dumbfounded. Nan Yin Xiaoshui and Zi Qiangwei sighed in relief, while Lilia stared thoughtfully at the dragon soul in my hand. She felt she had seen this artifact in some ancient text. Shaking off the thought, she tucked the sapling away. It seemed she wouldn't need to intervene. The monster siege had stalled again after the Dark Judgment. The evil faction was likely baffled by my ability to neutralize such a powerful strike. The Church of Darkness's failure demoralized the evil faction. Even their strongest Dark Judgment had failed, leaving their gods stunned. This human's territory is too broken. Our troops are just walking to their deaths. You have the nerve to complain? My church lost 10 million legendary units while you only sent a few thousand elites. Don't play the victim. I lost my own believers, while you just threw away some slaves. The gods bickered, their usual state of disarray. Suddenly, a cold voice silenced them, the Dark Goddess. Though some gods were defiant, none dared openly disrespect her, fearing her legendary grudge. The Dark Goddess ordered, "My saint will lead the next assault. Bring out all your elites, no holding back." The gods agreed. The Church of Darkness was powerful. Surely they would deploy crown tier units now. Time passed. The dark portals remained active, but nothing emerged. I frowned, wondering what they were planning. Half an hour later, a system prompt sounded. World announcement. The 91st wave approaches. 50 billion monsters, 25 billion tier 9, 15 billion tier 10 to 12, and 10 billion tier 13, crown tier. Good luck. The announcement echoed as a massive tide of monsters appeared. The sheer volume of tens of billions of monsters filled the horizon. Worse, the minimum tier was 9, with 10 billion crown tier units, enough to flatten any medium city. Players were stunned. as even high-tier units were rare to them. 10 billion crown tier units? Is this really a 7-day-old server? They wondered, fearing for me. Heavy footsteps shook the ground as massive figures emerged from the portals. They were abominations, bloated, stitched-together masses of flesh. I recognized them as the genuine article, far superior to the poison cult's fakes. Abominations were the quintessential meat shields, high HP, high defense, and high magic resistance. These were Tier 13 Crown Tier abominations created by demons. I used Scout, noting the commanders behind them, epic, legendary, and even mythical grade entities. They were going all out. These units were max level, equipped with full sets of mythical gear. Under normal circumstances, they would be unbeatable. But with my 2,000x attack and defense buff, I sneered. Crown tier meat shields? I'll kill them in seconds. However, I soon frowned. The commanders were hiding behind the portals, staying out of range. I snapped my fingers, and my defensive structures went silent. The legendary bosses saw their chance. Night Demon is out of energy. His towers are down. Charge! The commanders led their troops out of the portals, finally stepping onto the battlefield for the first time in hours. Their joy lasted only seconds. Boom, boom, boom. As the enemies stepped onto my land, my hidden traps detonated. The abominations were tough, but the squishier units were instantly vaporized and fell as corpses. The bosses were stunned. Top-tier magic traps? How many did he lay? These blueprints were rare and monopolized by the City of Mages. Only 10,000 traps were released to the entire continent annually. Yet, I had covered hundreds of meters with them. The bosses halted their advance, realizing this was a siege unlike any other. They were deeply frustrated. Even the City of Light wasn't this difficult to assault. A mythical grade priest waved his staff, shielding the abominations in a black aura, a 5-minute invincibility skill. The drawback was severe, 50% reduced max HP for 24 hours after the effect ended. The abominations surged forward. They trampled the traps, clearing a path for the squishier units following behind. I tapped the wall impatiently. Hurry up. 10 minutes later, the invincibility faded, and the abominations began taking damage from traps, though healers kept them barely alive. They finally entered the range of the elven sharpshooters. I waited. Sylvia was ready, but the most cunning commanders were still hiding in the portals. I kept my towers silent and signaled the elves. The elven sharpshooters appeared on the walls. Flaming arrows rained down, melting even the abominations. The commanders watched in horror at the sheer AoE power. Still, they calculated that the elves were too few to clear 50 billion monsters quickly. They ordered the army to press on. Finally, the evil faction reached the base of my walls. After 5 hours of fighting, they finally stood before the fortifications and ordered an all-out assault. A burly man charged forward, raising his warhammer high before slamming it down. A sharp metallic clang rang out, leaving the man's arm numb from the vibration. The commanders froze in shock. What kind of wall is this? Is that mechanical armor plating? The defense is absurdly thick. He's a legendary boss with a mythical grade weapon that has damage bonuses against walls. It's only an epic grade wall, yet it didn't break? Impossible. The evil faction army watched in disbelief as their attacks dealt 0 damage. I sneered. With a 2,000-fold defense buff, even a god's descent couldn't breach these walls. I narrowed my eyes. The shadows in the portal were thinning. The bosses behind the scenes were losing patience. I signaled the sky, and frost dragons descended like tigers into a flock, slaughtering the legendary units near the portal. I dispatched Sylvia and the Dragon Legion to cut off their retreat. I activated a long-held item. Ding! Activated. A faint mist spread from the territory, startling the evil faction bosses. Visibility dropped to under a meter. They were stumbling blindly into the city walls. I activated my million-plus defensive installations. A barrage of gunfire erupted, shaking the heavens. The bosses turned cold, realizing they had been baited. The cunning night demon. He lured us out of the portal. Help! I'm done sieging. Where's the exit? Stop bumping into me. I sneered. Escape was impossible. The mist stripped all bosses below mythical grade of their sense of direction. They were trapped in a loop. I ordered my defenses to focus fire on the disoriented bosses. Ding! You killed boss, gained 3M activity points. 10,000 times amplification triggered, 30 B points. Ding. Your troops killed boss, gained 20M activity points. Amplification triggered, 200 B points. Ding. You gained 500K Church of Light contribution points. Amplification triggered, 5 B points. Ding. These commanders were high-level priests, all at least epic-grade bosses. Bosses yielded massive activity points. I smiled. Normally, killing a mythical-grade boss would be grueling. But here, with my damage coefficients, they were one-shot. Half an hour later, the wave was cleared. Frost dragons dragged ambushers from the portal and devoured them. As evening approached, I prepared for the final wave. The evil gods were furious at the loss of their high-level priests. How could they be insta-killed? My priest was mythical grade. How did a legendary grade defense kill him instantly? My elite troops are wiped out. The dark goddess silenced their complaints with a cold, authoritative voice. Have your saints prepare for transport. I will lead the divine descent myself. The gods were stunned. Divine descent? All of us. It carried immense risk. Look at the state of the goddess of poison. Dying in a divine descent meant losing significant divine power, and the host vessel would perish instantly. The last time all gods descended was during the War of Gods and Demons thousands of years ago. What had this human done to provoke the dark goddess so? The mist remained. I, unaffected, frowned, wondering what the final wave would bring. Suddenly, a massive, mysterious force descended. I felt the weight of a mountain pressing down on me. Ding. Unknown cause. All units' movement and attack speed reduced by 100%. World announcement. A terrifying entity has descended upon the Dragon Kingdom. All players evacuate immediately. I recognized the system prompt. A god was descending. A slender figure in a black dress emerged from the portal. My eyes tightened. The dark goddess was holding a grudge over a few photos. I cast a scout spell. Description: the dark goddess's manifestation in the main plane. Grade: Mythical, Tier 9 level. HP: ATK. Def: Skills. Unlike the weak goddess of poison, this manifestation was Tier 9 mythical, the peak combat power allowed in the main plane. She stared at me. Human, today is your death. Enjoy being swallowed by darkness. She waved her hand, and the system alerts flooded in. World announcement. A terrifying entity has descended upon the Dragon Kingdom. The announcements repeated nearly 200 times, leaving players dazed. Rose, what's happening? The stream is just mist. Is that 200 gods descending at once? This is insane. How can Night Demon defend against this? My eyebrows twitched as I scanned the figures emerging from the portal. Nearly 200 evil gods had arrived. Some were unknown, but others were infamous. Many had ravaged Blue Star in my past life. Any one of them was a catastrophe, especially the god of destruction, who had once seized player territories during the demon invasion. The destruction of half the player territories on Blue Star decimated humanity's combat forces. I showed no mercy toward the gods. I dismissed my defenses, knowing conventional weapons were useless against divine power. As the dark goddess shielded the gods with an energy barrier, I remained calm. I triggered a series of system prompts. Requesting divine descent, do you accept? Over 200 requests flooded in. I realized that while receiving divine power was beneficial, mortal bodies had strict limits. The physical burden was immense. Even a saint, perfectly attuned to the gods, could be bettered in for months after a divine descent. I decided to accept Stephanie's descent, as our compatibility was highest. I accepted, but only for the power, refusing to surrender my consciousness or body. Divine power surged into me. The system chimed. Divine descent accepted. Due to your high constitution, capacity plus 10. Triggered 10,000 times amplification, capacity plus 100,000. I was stunned. My divine power capacity had been amplified. A wild idea took hold. If I could handle this, why not accept all of them? I proceeded to accept every request. System notifications flooded my ears as I accepted multiple descents. The gods were shocked. Is he insane? He's trying to host 200 gods at once. He'll die instantly. They knew that if an otherworldly lord died during divine descent, their body would be consumed by the power, resetting their level to 0. The good faction sighed at my impending doom, while the evil faction laughed, eager to scavenge my territory's resources. Convinced I would perish, the evil faction waited for me to collapse. Yet, time passed, and I didn't die. Instead, my aura grew terrifyingly powerful, exceeding the god's comprehension. How? I feel the presence of over 100 gods in him. He's a monster. A saint like this is 1 in a billion. I successfully hosted all the good faction gods, my divine power reaching the required threshold. I maintained total control, refusing to let them influence my mind or body. Powerful, conflicting energies rampaged through me. Their sheer volume activated the skills of the 9 Hammers of Destiny. 9 Hammers of God-Slaying. Max deals 9 consecutive hits, starting at 5,000x divine power, doubling each time. Ultimate skill. Max uses chaos energy to cause cataclysmic destruction. 1. Deals 900 billion x divine power. 2. Directly strikes the target's soul. 3. Unavoidable. Ignores all status effects and strikes the soul directly. Costs 50 million divine power, 30-day cooldown. I gasped at the stats. These skills were absurdly powerful. The 9 Hammers of God-Slaying could be dodged or mitigated by invincibility skills. But the ultimate skill was different. It bypassed all defenses to strike the soul directly. This meant it could damage a god's true form, even through an avatar. It was a lethal threat to gods who cherished their immortality. They rarely visited the main plane, and even more rarely risked injury. I poured all my divine power into the 9 hammers and prepared to strike. The evil faction gods panicked, wondering if the god of light was protecting him. They hesitated, none wanting to strike first. Suddenly, a massive energy hammer, thousands of meters wide, manifested in the sky. The gods felt a primal sense of crisis. They tried to flee, but the hammer crashed down with a world-shaking boom. When the energy cleared, a bottomless crater stretched for thousands of meters. System notifications erupted. Killed God, gained 9 billion EXP, 90 hero skill points, 9 million contribution points. Killed God, gained 8 billion EXP, 80 hero skill points, 8 million contribution points. Killed God, gained 10 billion EXP, 100 hero skill points, 10 million contribution points. The notifications continued. Triggered 10,000 times amplification. Gained 90 trillion EXP, 900,000 hero skill points, 90 billion contribution points. More rewards followed. Completely killed God. Gained 800 billion EXP, 8,000 hero skill points, 90 billion contribution points. Triggered 10,000 times amplification. Plundered divine kingdom. Gained resources, small divine power crystals. Triggered 10,000 times amplification. Gained 2 million small divine power crystals. The loot was astronomical. World announcement. Dragon Kingdom player, I am the first to kill a god's true form. Reward. Title, 10 billion reputation. World announcement. The Divine Kingdom has been plundered. I triggered 10,000 times amplification, gaining 100 trillion prestige. I thoroughly killed multiple gods, triggering further amplification and earning a new title.